I'd like to call to order the May 2025 Village of Lake Park Council meeting. This time I'd like to turn the floor over to Councilman Steve Tudor for the invocation.
Right, bow their head, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you with gratitude for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us, for the privilege of living and serving in the Village of Lake Park, and for the leadership of the mayor, council, staff, and neighbors. We thank you for those who protect and serve our village. We ask that you watch over them, granting them safety, strength, and wisdom. As we meet this evening, we ask that you guide our hearts and minds, grant us wisdom, discernment, and unity as we deliberate and make decisions on behalf of our village. May our actions and choices reflect integrity, grace, and a sincere commitment to the well-being of all. Above all, may the decisions we reach be pleasing to you and align with your will. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. As able, could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment. We have two people signed up and we have Chief Floyd here. I'm going to run through the people signed up here real quick, Chief.
That's fine.
All right, first off, we have in behalf of the HOA, Lori Scaldera, 6302 Frost Court. Floor is yours.
Okay, so I saw you guys a few months ago, and should I close this? Or?
Yeah.
No, we have to leave it. Okay. On behalf of the HOA, we had asked for a beer garden, which was approved. Unfortunately, the first beer garden was rained out. We got there set up, paid a lot of money for the gated area, and for, we had to pay for the officers to come out, whether or not they stay or not. And I'm asking for another one, May 30th, same restrictions and so forth. So we have sort of a do-over on behalf of the HOA. That's fine.
Make a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we allow the beer garden on May 30th, based on previous restrictions that.
A motion in a second?
A second.
Bruce second. Jim, make a motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay.
Nay.
Same old 3-2.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, motion passes. All right, next up, Dan Mixon at 6310 Frost Court.
I was just wanting to find out what is going on with Eagle Engineering. I don't know if this was the place or not to ask that question. There's a lot going on the Versailles Pond, where we have a tendency, I guess there's been a lot of cement added, like in the spillway or causeway there. And I'm wondering if there's going to be issues with that overfilling the pond, which when we do get a heavy rain, it does have a tendency to back up all the way into our property sometimes. So I just wanted to get an idea what was maybe going on with that project.
Well, if you could stick around, Dan, on in section 9 on stormwater, we have Eagle Engineer here. It's Matt Kirshner, I'm sorry. Matt Kirshner from Eagle Engineer is here to answer some questions for us, and we will be talking about that project and, and maybe something else future going on with it.
Very good.
So if you hang on for just a little bit, we'll be there. All right, next I'll turn the floor over to Chief Blake with Henry Bridge Fire Department.
Thank you. I know I'm going to go ahead and talk about the fire station over here before we get into the truck, but I know there's a lot of questions about that. I've been here several times about this. It looks like we should have a TCO in the next 2 weeks, so that'll allow us to start moving in. Once we get situated in there, we'll be able to start running calls out of there. We got to get a fence up. We got to get some more bushes planted, of course, to get through the zoning side with the Town of Indian Trail. So everything else is done. The trades are done. Their final inspections are all done. It's just a matter of getting punch list stuff done now, and that's going to be a pretty long punch list when it comes out. So it may take us a little while to get that accomplished, but we'll be in there and they will start operating, shortly. So that's where we are with that. And once we get in there, you know, we may actually be operating out of there for a little while before we have an open house, and certainly want y'all to be a part of that. So, if y'all want to take a field trip, one of your meeting nights or whatever, and go over there and take a tour, you're welcome to do that. I drive a solid white Tahoe with a permanent plate on the back. If you see it parked out front and you're driving by, you're welcome to stop in. I do actually work out of there a little bit just because I need to be over here to see what's going on with the contractor and what's being worked on with it. So, so if you see it out there, you're welcome to stop in. I'll give you a tour. You can just walk around. I mean, not a big deal, okay? So I came tonight because the town had donated $80,000 to the fire station to purchase a QRV to respond out of this station. It's out front. Most of you had the opportunity to go out and take a look at it. I want to say before, I actually wrote a nice letter to the town council and the town. I'll read that. But I want to say I did, part of that motion was that we would return an itemized list of the items that were purchased with that money. And I have done that, and Cherie has that along with the receipts for each of those items. So she has all of that to enter into y'all's record for that, okay? So I wrote this letter, and it says, Dear Village of Lake Park Mayor and Council members, on behalf of the entire Hemby Bridge Fire Department, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude for your generous donation of $80,000 to support the purchase of a quick response vehicle for our new fire station. This contribution represents a vital investment in the safety and well-being of our community. The addition of this quick response vehicle will significantly enhance our ability to respond swiftly and efficiently to emergencies, particularly medical calls and small-scale incidents that require rapid intervention. It will allow us to provide life-saving care more efficiently while preserving the readiness of our larger apparatus for crucial fire rescue calls. So your commitment to public safety and support of our department is deeply appreciated. We are proud to serve a community that values the importance of preparedness, responsiveness, and teamwork. Thank you for your support again and helping us better equip our fleet for readiness. Okay, and you know, so thank y'all for this donation, and I'll give this to Cherie. She can do whatever it is that she wants to do with it, or whatever happens to it from here. She wants to enter that into the minutes. She has it. You know, we're going through a lot of processes with staffing and other things and how that's going to be staffed. Our goal, I know there's been some questions out of here. I know Jeremy's called out a couple of questions about it. The goal will be that we'll be staffed with 4 firefighter EMTs and 2 EMTs to respond in this QRV. Okay, that'll be our goal. That's 6 people, 24/7. That's our goal. Now, you know, we'll see where we get to with
Employment.
So yeah, I mean, it's hard to find people. I'm not gonna lie. You know, they're hard to come by in the part-time world. So we're kind of still in that transition of trying to get transitioned over to full-time, and it's challenging. There's a lot of red tape. So that's kind of where we are with that. Any questions for me on the fire department? I know y'all have an update. I think Wendy sends that to the mayor monthly to enter into y'all's meeting. Is there any questions that y'all have for me around any updates or anything you just want to know?
You know, the biggest question everybody's wanted to know for a while. You know that one, so we'll get
Listen, I've not been able to go out to eat for a year without being asked that.
I'm sure.
So I'm ready to be done more than anybody.
Well,
So that I can quit getting asked that question, you know, but hopefully we'll get it done. It's a very nice looking building.
It's great
It's
outside.
very functional. You know, we get the fence up, it'll look nice, you know, and that's part of it, right? It fits in and it looks nice. So, but anything else?
Thank you for your service.
Yep. Thank
you
you all
very much, Chief.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks to the rest of you guys from Hemby Bridge coming by. We appreciate it. Y'all take care.
Good luck, man.
All right, we got Frost Court's pretty represented here right now. So we had another. Matt, did you want to talk about anything, or just want to hear what was going on? We do have a representative from Eagle here. So
Yeah.
okay, I didn't know if you wanted to talk or anything on that. So okay, we'll move on from that. All right, next for approval for minutes. You guys have the minutes were emailed to you and they're in front of you in the package. We have minutes for April 8th regular session, April 29th budget workshop, and April 29th closed session. Has everybody had the chance to look at the closed session minutes? Probably not, because I should have given that out before. If I can get everybody to, at some point here, just look over that and initial the outside of the envelope of the folder, we'll have that straight. So, do we need to get a motion for each individual minutes, or can we just do them all together? Okay. So can I get a motion for approval for the April 8th, 2025 regular session minutes?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Steve made the motion, Mark second. All those, or any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. All right, can I get a motion to approve the April 29th budget workshop?
Motion to approve.
Jim made the motion, a second.
No second.
Bruce second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You gotta actually say it, okay. All right, so motion approved. All right. I didn't give the closed session minutes out. Does everybody want to take a second look over that before we make the motion for that? You'll make the motion for the closed session minutes?
I second it.
Bruce second. All right, all in favor? All right, motion passed. All right, you also had in your packet, you had the consent agenda. Was there any questions on the consent agenda that people want to remove, or can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
Motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
All right, Jim made a motion, Bruce second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any changes to the agenda? Nope, no changes? Okay, if there's no changes, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Steve made a motion, second.
No second.
Mark second. Any questions? All right, all in favor, somebody saying aye?
Aye.
All right, let's move on to some other business here. Number 8, public safety. Union County Sheriff, we've got Deputy Tatro with us. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, you
Doing good, thank you.
good, looks like we had 2 alarms, general calls for service about 48, preventive patrol 500, occasionally self-initiated, traffic stop 19, and other self-initiated calls 25. Have nothing to report.
Stop signs seem to be being,
Scores.
I was hoping you were gonna say better, but still.
I can sit right there at the stop sign and they'll still block their way.
You give them a little reminder?
I do, yes.
Okay.
For months there, we were doing like 35 or 50 stops a month.
We were at one time, we did 50. Now Bailey was, when he was here, he was, from what I understand, a pretty big part of that. He wrote a lot of tickets or made a lot of traffic stops, I guess I should say. He initiated a lot of traffic stops. We're not doing quite as much yet. Headland is more visual person, I think, out there. And you do your share of it, but we're still waiting for your LiDAR.
Right, I went, but did pass, so I gotta go back for it.
It's a tough one, I hear.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear it still.
Yes, while I'm here, the question, so it seems to be like the permits.
Mhm.
I'm having a lot of people saying, I didn't need it, I didn't know I needed a permit, even though there's a sign that says permit required.
You're talking about for fishing?
Yes, because I'd say 99% of the people that I've encountered don't have a permit.
Yeah, I saw you down there talking to some fishermen the
A
other
lot
day.
of them too live in Lake Park and say that they didn't know. Just like, so I give them a warning, and if I catch them again, they'll get a ticket.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but they keep emphasizing on the sign it's not clear, so I just wanted you guys.
Well, there's a lot of signs that say no fishing and they still do that.
Yeah, I agree, yes. I didn't see the signs, what I hear.
Well, actually, they've taken.
That's
one-
usually where they put their fishing bag.
And they've taken one of the no's and blocked it out and it says fishing allowed.
Right, yes.
I will say your actions have resulted in, we have sold quite a few, both residential and non-residential fishing licenses are up.
I've been told nobody has checked for many, many years. So
So yes, you being out walking around the ponds has definitely improved our permits.
yes, I'm trying.
So,
Any other questions for Deputy Detro? Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, being in public safety, this is what Chief Blythe was talking about, Jeremy's been getting the call numbers from their facility there, and they had 217 calls last month. Fire and medical calls. All right, on to number 9, stormwater. This is going to be fun. We got a lot to talk about here real quick. We're going to start off with, council last month, or I believe the month before, actually, we initially started talking about with everything going on across court and with the mapping project that's going on, asked if we could have a representative from Eagle. Matt, I'm sorry, it's Kirchner?
Matt Kirchner, yes.
Kirchner, okay, I'm sorry, Matt. Matt Kirchner's here today to help us out and to answer any questions for us. Did you want to present something first, or just go right open for questions?
Right open for questions.
All right, so Bruce, I know you had a question or two that you wanted to ask.
Like, I guess on that one, I at least update on the storm mapping thing, that's supposed to be.
Well, that was one of my questions I was going to ask you, but yeah, go ahead, go right ahead.
That is supposed to be completed by the end of this month, so I would say if time available on the next meeting, or maybe not during this meeting, so I can run through the software and how everything is, we should probably set some meetings on showing everyone out how to use it all and what it is, so that anytime in June, will be fully completed for the village to use. There'll be an initial meeting on findings and then continuous meetings on.
On the releases, okay, with all the recommendations. There's not many recommendations, right? Not to put you on the spot there.
Depends on what it calls mini, isn't it?
There's 32 level 5 repairs.
The most severe.
One, I would say immediate repair that needs to happen, and then the other ones are like even gaps and stuff in storm pipes. 32 total in Lake Park is what we're seeing right now.
All right. What kind of questions do we have for Matt?
I had more questions about Frost Court because I was out there
Mm-hmm.
early in the week with Matt, and Jeremy, and Kevin.
Well, that's,
And
and
I
we
think
can
it might
move-
relate to this gentleman's questions also. I don't know your name, I apologize.
That's all right. I don't know yours either.
That's all right, I'm Bruce.
That's all right.
well, let's start off with, what is the latest finding we have for Frost Court for the next phase?
For phase 2,
For phase 2?
Okay.
Well, actually, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's go back and talk about phase 1 is completed with the first part of the channel being done and what the flow is now, and then what our next feeling is. I think that's what everybody wants to know, right?
so everything's done with phase 1 except for the final landscaping. When we met out there to look at phase 1, phase 2 came into question, and we didn't want to landscape the area that we started in phase 1 if we're going to disturb stuff in phase 2. So the channel, the pipes, the new box is all in and complete. I sent photos, I think.
I've seen some of those.
Everything's flowing really well, I'll see back up the roads. So all the flow from phase 1 is complete and working properly.
And now it's the recommendation to move forward with phase 2 sooner than we originally talked about?
So if anybody has been out there and seen the construction on phase 1 and say a semi-mess it took to install phase 1, having Kevin on site there at the time, we're already gonna have to muck out the rest of the ditch out there. But with the slope being less than 2% from the concrete swell to the pond, anything less than a 2% swell, you can't do a grass swell, so you can't do a natural swell. Anything that's greater than 2% fall from side to side, a grass swell is easily maintained, the water will wash all the debris down and continue to flow. From here, we're at a 0.5% all the way to the rest of the pond. So the recommendation for the Eagle is to go ahead and finish that concrete swell from where phase 1 is to the pond. That way we can stabilize that area back there and be done, not have to disturb that area again when we go back to do phase 2. And that will keep the flow all the way from the Crossbrook Road all the way to that pond free and clear. And we're not really speeding up the water to get there because we're still at 0.5%. So we're not steeping pipes or anything to get back there. It's really for long-term maintenance out there for all the tree growth and bush growth that, might dam up the water as it gets to the pond, while we have backups in the road and things like that. It just will easily maintain that flow to that pond where this what ends up either way.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
You were saying that water goes back up and goes into the park, correct? Is that with concrete now still at 0.5%? Is that going to start that now flowing?
No, so the way the pond works, or let's say Ross Court
gets the water, stormwater from the roads and the storm pipe into the pond. The spillway, the existing spillway there now controls the rate of that water discharging in front of the pond. So on very large storms, that pond detains water, and then the spillway, which isn't part of being part of frost work, releases the water at a stage so that the downstream could handle that. So the repairs going to the frost work channel, if I can say this well, doesn't have any impact on whether it will release the water quicker out of the pond. So on the larger storms, if it detains into where it is, it'll be the exact same now. So there are no changes to the storage of the pond with these improvements.
Right, so we rephrase my question. So without it being concrete, it's a half-inch drop, but we had all broken, and so the water wasn't flowing. With the concrete going down in, keeping it at that 0.5%, is that going to flow better, causing less contact into them because it's not flowing, it's backing up? So it should be less into the yards now.
It won't have, the improvements affected the backflow going into the roads,
Right.
but not into the yard. So this yard, if the pond, this within the pond storage area, the backyard, it's still gonna be the same storage area. So that's just a fixed elevation around the pond and the way this, the spillway elevation is. So the concrete going that we did won't affect that storage area on it. So I guess instead of detaining it in the road, it's gonna be detained in the pond, so in the backyard versus being on the road. So technically, I would say with anything, it would seem to make this yard worse than help. Because that water is gonna be in the pond area where it's
No,
supposed
no,
to be.
I get what you're saying,
in the road.
but my question is the pond? I'm saying this correctly. How it's set up now where all the growth and everything was happening in the spillway, that water was restricted. So I made the pond area larger, because the water can flow out.
Not really, because the swell was higher elevation than the pond. So at a 0.5%, over it's a couple feet. So we're only talking, he has a low spot in his backyard, so 6 inches to a foot of storage is backing up into his yard. So that didn't really get us all the way up to the corner lot. So what I did is all we did from there is get the raw water from the road and back up the storm drain pipes out. His yard will still act the exact same way as it did before. So whether the storage, the flow was hurting the roads, it wasn't hurting his yard. And that ditch didn't really give it any more storage that the pond already has right now. Right on the aspect.
No, that's all right, no, that's just, I was asking that correctly.
Seems like one of the challenges may be, and I talked with the former mayor, he came out one time and when the pond was up quite a bit, was the fact that the spillway wasn't designed to possibly handle the overflow of water. Which, you know, he's like, that's an expensive fix, which that would be another project maybe at some point. But then, you know, if you increase that spillway where it, then you start having issues down water from there as well, right?
There are possibilities. At this time, we have not looked at the pond itself at all.
Okay,
It was just transformative feeding the water from Frost Fork
Right.
into the pond. To make any changes or make any recommendations to changes to the pond, we want to do a study on the storage of the pond and the specs downstream from there.
Okay.
Because the way to help your yard would be to release water faster on the bigger storm, but that might have a negative effect downstream from where it's at. Most of the ponds or lakes and Lake Park flow into each other, so that if we release from that one quicker, it might flow into the other one quicker than almost a domino effect. We'd have to change all the spillways to increase the flow as we go. But there might be something if it's just your yard's the one with the shed in the back.
Yeah.
So you have that one dip, I think, where a lot of it's coming.
Right.
So the easier effect on that piece would be almost I would say to fill that area in where that dip is. Because you have let's say a 600 contour that runs around the ball, it dips a little bit right there. So it's letting that storage come into your yard versus staying in the pond. Right. But if we even just burn it closer to the pond side of it, it would hold that constant elevation out. So it would have to flood everybody's yard versus just coming into that low area that's there. But I'd have to make sure that there's not a drainage ditch getting there. So it might be another drainage swell coming, it's just a grass swell coming into that.
Right. And it takes, you know, a very large, like a 6 or 7 inch, or when we get a tropical storm, you know, and it sits on us like we've had a couple times, that's when it's coming in. So it's not like even these past big rains. I think what we're concerned about is how this new, how it's gonna affect how much it comes in with the new spillway in the concrete. Because even at the very end of it, where, and I have pictures I can show you. Right now, water is sitting there, like it's dammed up from the rocks that they put down, which, thank you very much, that did help too, quite a bit, you know, because they sloped it a little bit. When
Those rocks, the riprap was there on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, that was all done about a year ago or so.
Yeah.
We did that.
And that helped a lot, so thank you guys for approving that, because they did come in and grade it. That did help, so thanks for approving that. But yeah, I mean, it just remains to be seen, you know, once everything's finished and how it might affect things.
And what we can do, since Kevin's back there, I mean, make sure there's not a drainage well, is we're gonna have extra dirt from phase 2.
Right.
If it's not as well, we could fill in that area where that's coming in, and that way it will be at the same elevation, so we'll have to overtake that whole area before we got into the yard, versus right now, that's the first place it's going.
Right.
It's almost like
Yeah.
so I'll look into that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
A fix on it, but it's a very large spillway coming out of that pond, so there. A lot of times you'll have like small orifices that's going, in. That's a very, very large spillway.
So that's considered a big or good size?
You're not gonna see a bigger spillway than that one. Most of the time you have very small control structures that are trying to manage different types of storms. And that one, you just got one big opening. It's almost like a emergency spillway versus having individual control structure on there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have a question, you may have answered it and went over my head, but at 6304, when you put the concrete in, does all of that water flow, or are you always still gonna have sitting water there?
Is that a 0.5% is what we do concrete? It will all flow. Right now,
So it'll be dry when, in the summer?
it will be dry in the summer. During the construction, they had dirt and stuff at the bottom of it. This storm, when I went at before, it looked like most of it was already washed down. But when they're done with it, they'll clean that spillway. So as long as there isn't any dirt backup or anything like that in there, it'll stay clean all summer. At minimal, if there is dirt or something in there, you're talking about very minimal, it'll dry out during the day.
Because we were told at one time that we thought there was still gonna be a standing water issue of some sort.
There shouldn't be any standing water coming from the curves, down that road.
Okay. That was one thing that we were told, and that was probably a big thing that a lot of people had questions about, was why we went through all this and we're still having standing water.
So when we have that, we're having conversations probably with the contractor on that one. 0.5%, if we're looking at it, is, from the naked eye, it almost looks flat. So we're talking bare minimum fall. That's why we have to do concrete. What he's saying, he's not guaranteeing that there might not be a standing water. They're trying their best to have it slope from one side to the next. We're talking pretty flat concrete work here. So that's, if you do have a small puddle here or there, that could happen at a 0.5% fall. But again, if anything, by the end of the day, it's gonna be dry up. I think all summer long will be dry.
I know the one person on Frost Court that's not here sent me a video yesterday of it flow. It looked like it was flowing pretty good.
It was flowing very well. So it had about the rain that we had maybe 2 inches in the swell, from like almost 2 or 3 feet that it can handle. So it worked very well. So it flew all the way down to where you had it mucked out, and I walked it. It was starting to rain on me, but it was flowing very well.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Or
My biggest question is this whole project. I mean, it started out, let's fixing this beside the road. We're gonna run through this pipe. We need to clean out this drainage field. We clean that out. Next thing you know, we need to concrete it. Now we need to concrete more of it. So when's it gonna quit hitting the wall?
So
Why does it keep changing?
So with this one, when we have it, when you're back there, so it's a maintenance on it. So let's just say you wanted to, let's say phase 2, you want to just muck it out. And the same thing, that the village has been mucking that thing out constantly for years and years to where you have it. And you're gonna have growth. That 0.5%, you're running flat. So if you have any settlement run down off the hills or anything like that, or in the grass slope, it builds up and it starts to dam up. and that's what's backing up farther and farther up the road. So on the concrete spillway, there's no having to go out there and clear brushes or anything like that. It stays maintained all the time. So the concrete spillway on phase one was a maintenance recommendation. Same thing on phase two. Phase two takes it all the way to the pond. There's no.
Why don't we get all that at one time? Though? It seems like it keeps, we do a little something, then we get another, here's more.
So phase
Do a little something,
one,
then here's more.
phase one went all the way to where there was a retaining wall. With the circumstances of the pipe at Cross Court and the, let's say, troubles that went over that, we didn't know how that would impact a retaining wall on a property. So that retaining wall is within the easement, the gentleman's here that we have on there. So that's why it went to, hey, we're in the easement to do all of phase one, out of everybody's way, we're messing with any fences, retaining walls, no backyards, and that's where that is. And that's why we stopped at phase one. Phase two, we're with the gentleman here where they have a little bit of fence, a little bit of retaining wall that will be in the way to complete phase two.
What will be done to prevent sediment from getting into it, and damming it?
Any storm like this will wash concrete clear all the time. It's open. And that's why we did open channel versus pipe. So that's right now, you had some element, you can get away with a power wash or a blower, go out there and just blow it out. And that's why, like the way your backyards are going into it now, you easily feed into it. And it's not a closed system. So like stormwater pipes that are full pipes, you have to get a back truck or something like that to suck it out. Where it's nice to channel storms or a blower or anything to clean those out if you have anything. But like I said, the storm we just had, it's pretty much all cleaned out. It would have had a good bit of mud at the bottom of the construction.
Would like the rocks that you put around the pond, would that prevent that from the sediment from going in at some point? Because eventually that would wash in.
The riprap from around the pond prevents the erosion. So it's almost like an armor.
Right.
Like pebble around back. So without the riprap there, they'll start getting concentrated flow. They'll start making reels and stuff in the edge of it. So it pretty much armor the edge so that the water will slow down before it gets into the pond and not carry any of the shoreline.
But I was thinking, along where the channel is there, could you put that down to prevent? Because that'll eventually wear down, and I went out there and I'll show you the pictures as well. And I mean, the sediment's getting into the pond. And it's eroding.
Because we're under construction right now.
Oh, okay.
As soon as the construction's done and they'll all be stabilized, all your slopes will be stabilized again, all your heavy flow is gonna be the concrete bottom.
Okay.
So it
Very
shouldn't be
good.
eroding the dirt anymore.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Then keep in mind after it's all done, what's not done yet is all the seeding and grass growing, and then we're gonna look to have that cutting maintained by Lucas or whoever's handling the
Okay,
village at the time. So it's not a homeowner's responsibility.
nice.
And the way that it was before we concreted phase one, anything that was growing in there was not being taken care of because there's no maintenance crew within the village. And I attended a stormwater symposium about 7 weeks ago. And this is happening all over because the weather cycles are changing so much that the rains we're getting are torrential, as you said yourself,
Yeah.
anything from storms to tropical. And if there's villages that have maintenance crews on staff, they're being advised to get out there and clean these swales or storm drains, whatever you want to call them, out on a regular basis, cut it down almost to nothing, which hasn't been done within the village for years.
Well, I do see a great maintenance crew right in front of my eyes. If you guys want to add some other tasks to your list.
If you want to volunteer to join, you can be the first volunteer.
All right, I'll go out with you guys.
And-
The way you're dressed.
If somebody moved their fence, I can't get there from my house. I can't do anything.
I think a lot of what you see on the summit boat is part of what we're calling phase two, where it's not, so it's, that water's running down now, and it's hitting all that dirt, and that dirt's now washing out
That's it.
until we have it.
So once that's all done and gone, you're gonna have a nice even flow when there is water, and it's not gonna be retaining the sediment down at the pond itself and around the riprap and everything is going to be much less, if almost nothing. And overall, it's just gonna be a better scenario.
However, you do need to be aware that there are people that drain, that have put drains into the stormwater easement. And so there are neighbors that have got to address their private systems that are trying to tie into the villages, because they're going to have to, for example, we have a gentleman that has 3 pipes running out of his backyard that they're going to have to, it's gonna have to tie in a way that will not create erosion for this village's stormwater channel.
Okay.
So anyone that is doing any type of stormwater regrading, anything like that along that back channel needs to go through the village to make sure that we're all working together and not against each other.
Makes sense.
Do you mean like corrugated pipes coming off of the
Yes.
phone?
Some downspouts.
Oh,
And
downspouts.
downspouts, yeah.
I've seen quite a few of them.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh. So,
So, question for you. I'm sorry, sorry, sure.
Grandfather. Can I try to answer this question a little bit more, why we did it in phases?
I
I
gotta
answer
ask you,
that one, unless you're on that too.
I'm on the same
Okay.
thing, but I understand phases, so my question to you is, you being the engineer going out looking at this, you've done phase 1, we ended up in phase 2. Is there a phase 3?
Not for cross.
There's nothing else.
So
that-
now for cross court and the swell, because this takes it and that gets you all the way to the pond. So that's to say, like you guys, we decided that there's more flooding to this gentleman's yard than it needs to, and now I'm looking at the spillway or something like that. That's a totally different part of it. I would put all that phase 3 across court, because that's not on my pond piece of it. But this well takes you all the way down to the pond. So we replaced it from the street down to that pond. There's nothing else in that channel that you can do.
There's the question. Is there anything else that you see there that should be addressed? We're not engineers, so we're relying on your opinion for us to make decisions. So is there anything else that you say we should address that could improve that over where it is today?
Not as it relates to the cross court swell. Only, the reason I say that, I haven't looked at anything else. The village is very large, so I think if you want me to look at a study area, I'd go walk it. But I haven't walked around that pond. My focus has been the cross court swell. So like, Mr. Matthew, here to see me, you see me walk down the cross court swell a lot, so that when I made a recommendation to go ahead and do phase 2, how does that impact him and how does that impact the neighbors and the grading that went there? That's where I focus my energy and time. If you want a recommendation on everything that drains to the pond, I can, I just haven't looked at that. I've only been focused on the cross court swell. So it's an active project at this time.
And how much have we spent to date on cross court?
can't answer that. I would say ballpark, $200,000.
That's including C here.
I'm sorry,
That's including line C.
No,
no,
that's to date.
That's,
Per the April budget report, we spent 182,646 on first court project. I don't know if anything fell into any other line item, but
I also, Steve, lumped, the attorney.
Yeah, that's, yeah, it should be.
And I figured you were kind of
Yeah.
looking for.
So then here's another 5K up here, right? So to date, we
Yeah,
spent
right.
200. Every time I come to a meeting, it's additional here, there, et cetera. So I'm not sure I could agree to it back to that.
Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet. We'll discuss that in a minute. We haven't got to that part yet.
I mean, you gotta take out, if I may speak, the attorney that we had to take on board to settle the situation with,
It's all part of the project, but yeah, that was another expense.
That was an expense that,
And that was probably money well spent, the way they got all was handled, so we didn't have problems with that.
it was the only way to go without having
Yeah.
liability issues.
Yeah, so that worked out good.
Did Kevin at least put a number for bucking out as well? Or did you just give you the concrete?
I don't have a number.
Just for the kind of, nothing for, just mucking it out, but
So on that one, Option one would be just to muck it out, which is just taking clean all the brush and everything out there that's happening, it'll just get dirt bottom. Or you're aggressive, but not doing concrete bottom. Option B, obviously what we have here is the concrete swell, which would be your more permanent stabilized bottom. I would recommend at least at a minimum, muck it out the rest of the way, so there's nothing else damming up that water to the pond. Which would be very minimal to the 85 for the concrete swell.
The mucking it out seems to be just kicking the can down the road.
That's it.
It is, but at least right now there's some damming up.
Sure.
So at a minimum, I would do that.
But then you gotta make sure that it's done every 18 months, 18 to 20 months.
I would, most times, if you, twice a year is what I would usually do stuff around.
Okay.
Steve, you got any more questions for Matt?
I don't.
Anybody else before I got a couple questions for him, but once everybody else is okay. It seems like from the start that, from the beginning of construction, this project's kind of had its iffy parts to it. You know, the first day, there was a lot of confusion going on of where everything was going, there were changes made at the last minute. We were told at one point, and I'm very glad to hear from you, I'm very happy to hear from you, that we don't have a standing water issue with it now. But it was really, when we were told that, was like, that's where everybody was like, we need to talk with somebody, because why did we go through all this to still have standing water? I know there was other parts of it that I had that, but that was a little concerning how there was a lot of confusion at the beginning of the project. And then there was also an issue where we found some concrete that was blocking up. There was still standing water at the end of Frost Court, and then there was some concrete in one of the pipes that was blocking it up. And then once that was cleared out, then it started draining good. How come we didn't know about that concrete that was blocking the pipe at the time?
We talked about the junction box.
At the junction box, apparently, that's right there between the yards that go up to Frost Court.
So with the village and where we're at, that's why I say the phasing piece of it, we try to do it in a reasonable budget amounts where, so the original scope was to look at the pipe that the pool was affected by.
Mhm.
So that's why it was past the area of concern. That's why I make sure I clarify when I say, hey, does this fix everything? The cross court swell, that one. So at that point, we were looking at the issues with the pipe that was going around the pool. We didn't go any farther down the swell or the junction box. We're fixing the pipe that was busted, that was going around the pool.
So, but from what I understood, the phrasing was used, and I don't think this came from one of the engineers. I think.
From that one, that was the biggest correction when I met with the mayor and Bruce Street last time. Everybody was talking to anybody with an Eagle shirt, and then from there, I directed that questions and comments would come to me, that way I can explain it in a professional, knowledgeable manner versus, it's even like I asked the landscaper outside about something Lake Park. He's there like, I'm cutting bushes. They don't really know what the big plan is. And so from there was questions being asked of just my field crew that was collecting data that was misrepresented and miscommunicated. Didn't understand the scope and what they were really talking about in that aspect of it.
Right,
So I think since that meeting, everyone's very clear since then.
Well, clear this up for council right now, because we all had this question. It's something that came up on our mind, is, of what we were told. Like I said, I realize it wasn't out of your mouth. What we were told was, oh, we saw concrete, we thought that was the end of the pipe, so we stopped. Now, that gives everybody a little bit of concern when we're going through this big mapping project right now. How do we know that that's not happening with the big mapping project that we're in the middle of right now? I say big, it's big for us. I know it's not, big for you. But
I'm confused on the concrete and thought it was the end of the pipe.
that was, now, of course, Jeremy's not here today, Mayor's not here today. That's what he told me that he was told by a representative is when it was, because we were asking, what happened when the camera was run through, we didn't see this area being stopped. And said, oh, when we got to the concrete there, we ran the camera through there, we got to the concrete, we thought that was the end.
And so with that junction box that we're looking at, it wasn't like concrete in the way, that junction box had reverse flow on it.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was pitched slightly backwards. We're talking about minimum 3 inches of pitch backwards on it. So it wasn't like we finished the camera and stopped. Inside of a circular concrete man-made box, it would have reverse flow of 6 inches. Not something that you would see from the camera. So we camera that whole system. It wasn't like a chunk of concrete blocking the flow. It's that the whole structure was tilted the wrong direction. That's because one side settled over time. And so the water that, when they shot this side was different than what you need to do to actually exit the structure. That's not something you would have seen on the camera. But it wasn't that we had a big chunk of concrete.
That's kind of the way
At
they
the end.
portrayed us, there was something blocking it, like there's concrete that somehow got there.
It was a concrete structure, like a junction box, like a catch basin. There's a big 30-inch pipe, and then what was a 15 was now a 24-inch pipe going into a junction box and then going out to a flared-in section. So that junction box was just tilted, it settled on the backside where that pipe was. And you're talking about 3 inches over the whole side of the box. And so that extra 3 inches is what, that pipe's all running pretty flat as well. So that 3 inches is what could have had the standing water on. So when we took that junction box out, that water now flows freely on that side. So we didn't actually, phase 1 of the swell was there for maintenance while we were back there. It was heavy trees and everything else to get that flow all the way gone. That pipe structure would still float out to the end just fine. We just would stop at the pipe structure.
So you shouldn't expect to have other problems that we didn't get a full view from camera.
There are multiple locations that your pipes are so full that the camera does not get all the way through.
Okay.
That will all
But
be
we've
noted.
been able to identify that, you know.
They'll all be noted. And from on that sheet, we'll get more on that one. The 5 S's are structural. Those aren't the grooves that are blocking stuff. That is pipes broken, pipes, settlement more than like 6 inches or so. And then you'll have, I think, 5 M's, those maintenance, that debris, whether it's concrete or dirt and everything else that's fully in there, that will have a back truck go and suck out. But again, you can see like how frost cores and phases, we're gonna give you the full list and make, hey, here's our highest priority. And then it's gonna take you 10 years to get through that list. I'd say we'll be back over and over again, but we'll have a whole list.
Oh, we all know it's a long project on this.
We'll break it up over a good while, depending on how if we get any grants or anything like that to. Can I add maybe one more thing?
Sure, go ahead, Dan.
Please. So you're saying phase 2, there will not be any standing water in that ditch once that's completed, even all the way to the pond, correct? Because I want to show you a picture and I want to make you all aware of that. I don't understand how that slight grade is going to stop that. So when I say that's at the pond. Right. So
yes.
do we have the exhibit that I sent by any chance that I can show them, or I can email them?
Let's see if I can get that.
But it was like that yesterday and the day before too.
This was in your email today?
Yes, it's the one, I think Jeremy Ford is.
Wait. Is it these? Is this what you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, you got it?
I can counsel, I can give you these.
Well, it's your problem. So what I did here, the design, we'll have it, so this doesn't have to present until we get to the last 20 feet. And that's where you have there, right, then I drop it down to 4%. So if anything, you're only gonna be in this area,
Mm-hmm.
but that rip right there, and that's why I asked if that was done on purpose, that rip rock is actually damming it up as well.
Right,
It's
right.
slowing that water to get to the pond, so that's to go through that rip wrap. If it was done on purpose, I need to make sure that when I told Kevin to take it out, because that's, again, it's feeding flow to the pond.
Yeah.
On that side. But if anything, you're talking the last 20 feet in the concrete, if the pond is stored up, it should always be lower than anything that we have. We're finishing the end of the concrete at the same elevation as your spillway. So if the spillway is dry, there's no water flowing over it, the bottom of this concrete will be dry.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Any other questions for Matt?
Matt, typically, how long does a stormwater system last in a community? I mean, I was talking to the engineer last week, he told me about 50 years if it's maintained, but if you don't maintain it, it could be quicker that it goes.
The problem is with the age of the system. So I would say nowadays, you probably are getting 50 years out of your systems. What we're seeing a lot of the structures, they're handmade bricks. So I'm gonna say it's an old construction method where you're bricking up structures versus a precast system that you have now. And so the ground and mortar in those structures are failing and water seeping around the system, which if even the way you install pipes now, you embed it with stone, so that if there is a little bit of leakage out, it doesn't erode the soil, that stone will kind of have it there. Nothing here is embedded in stone. You got all the brick structures that are leaking, so that water is eroding the soil that's holding those structures up on it. I think if we catch it early enough, we could do a lot of point repairs. Instead of having to dig it up, it's just, okay, I gotta patch this one seam and go through that. You can definitely get 50 years out of this, out of the system.
Thank you.
It's just more making sure it fixes the easy stuff out along the way instead of it's failing now, I guess.
But asking that question 30 years ago wouldn't get the 50-year answer. The way they were built 30 years ago, or the way our system was built 30 years ago.
Well, probably 10 years ago,
And
we
it's
asked.
not, and it's not all of it, so we have a good mix. We do have some precast structure, all the newer construction, I think, in the last 10 years was precast boxes, all concrete pipes. The embedded's more of like the last 5 years, they started embedding with stone, only because they're having failures with storm pipes. And if you don't embed it with stone, the soil is so easy to erode around it. Here in Union County, and that's why I say that the pipe is vertically, not aligned, not just horizontally. Horizontally, you know, we could feel like that, but it was vertically not aligned. We tried dry grow at one point, they were supposed to get up underneath the pipe, realign it. What we have here is that those trenches that they dug for the pipes was in straight rock. So they can't get up underneath the pipe to lift it. So now the recommendation, if it's vertically misaligned, you have to dig it up because we can't get underneath it. So it's not eroding a ton in most places. You're gonna see that 3 to 6 inch drop where they over excavated a little bit, because other than that, it's sitting on rock at this point. Until you get into obviously patching. So I'm gonna say 80% of your pipes are probably sitting on rock, and the other 20% is where you're gonna have issues where you add more dirt to erode away from.
Thanks.
That's why most replacements now, it doesn't matter if it's this village or wherever, is not a concrete pipe. It's the plastic pipes because they interlock, and they have a little more flex to them.
You can do watertight concrete pipe as well. A lot of that is the industry nowadays of what's available. You get the same amount of long-term use out of it. You have the same amount of coverage on it. A lot of what we're fixing is in common open space, so it's non-structural areas in the road. We would still recommend RCP pipe or HP pipe, all stronger than plastic, but since we're in common open space, it's more cost effective to do HDPE pipe and embedded in stone, which gives you a little better tight on the connection. This is a 20-foot section versus 8 foot. That's the biggest difference, I would say, from concrete to plastic, is that you're not having a joint every 8 feet, you're having a joint every 20 feet. So if you're gonna have a failure, it's a quarter of a much, since you have twice or 4 times long pipe that you're putting in the ground.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Now we brought 6308. I'm I guess I'm the next part of that concrete channel. So the only thing I want to talk about, because I'm still waiting on a lot more information that I haven't gotten yet. But if you do not, and remember, I met you Tuesday, concrete channel was already in.
On phase 1.
Okay, so concrete channel is already in. Now what happens if you don't do the rest?
The village, I would recommend them maintaining the natural swell that's back there.
So then a machine came in there and went about 40 or 50 feet and dug down again. I guess that was to make sure that it flowed off of that 2% run that you have on that concrete channel.
It's a 0.5% on the concrete channel.
0.5% right now. So they went and dug more down into it all that way. So now it just sits there, even worse now. You're almost like, I mean, it was like really thinking that you were just gonna jam this thing through without talking to somebody like me. And, coming in there with a big machine and just digging it and making it worse right now without thinking of getting to the next part and kind of doing the whole thing at one time. Really makes no sense to me. I've been there 17 years. I've cleared that thing usually twice a year. He sees me do it. It's not fun, but I do it. It's not even all mine. I've done it forever. We've never flooded. We've never had a problem. And yet when you come in with those machines and you dig down, you take trees out, I understand the brush, I understand the weeds, I understand what you're trying to clear. But it's cleared, it's been cleared before. Like you said, they keep coming in there. But now we have this concrete channel there. And my wife and I have to make a decision. And it's almost been forced upon us to, you know, either play along and be super kind, or just, you know, kind of, I don't know, clear it out like I've been doing, because that's what we do. That's what I do. Sweat it out, take the little hand one, or take a weed whacker and clear it out, and clear it out better. But for the life of me, I cannot understand why you'd build that without kind of getting down the way a little bit more. Knowing that that retaining wall has been a problem, I care less about that retaining wall. It was allowed to go into the easement well prior to me. It was approved to go in that easement. They did that for all I care. But if you don't like it, take it. None of that matters to me. I understand I own all that land still. It's just an easement. But I don't care about that. What I care about is our fence, which was approved 4 years ago. And now we're asked to take on a great expense to move what we just found out to be 0 to 40 inches on the corner. 1/5 of that fence, we gotta move back. And it happened because guys that put it in, they didn't want to listen to all the stakes. They wanted to get a full panel in there. That was, and when I talked to, you know, the mayor the other night, I don't believe in saying pound sand, but I believe in people. If you got something going on like that and you know you need more discussion on it, I can't understand why I had to see you with better clothes on than the other people that have been out there, you know, whisking your arms and stuff, and then I get concerned. And what was the first thing I asked about? My blueberry bushes. And your answer was, you recall?
I think Kevin said he would help you move the blueberry bushes.
The first response was from you, you're gonna lose the blueberry bushes.
I think Kevin made all the conversations that.
You try, I'm very direct.
Even that Megan.
I don't miss anything,
Like,
and I'm not gonna
you
miss
said
it
that.
here either. What I'm saying is, that was the wrong response, because, no, we don't have to lose them. We can certainly find a way. But at that moment, I heard a very offensive, defensive approach. And yet I was still, you know, I think I was pretty kind about it all. So right now, there is one hangup for us. And, you know, now that we see the fence, you know, and we've been asked to, you know, say that they'll take on the retaining wall. Again, I don't care. I'll pull it out by hand. I've done all these things. But I don't care about that. That's not a negotiation for me. The fence, that's a big deal.
Okay, so are we at the point where we know that the fence has to be moved in order to do phase 2? Have we gotten to that?
No, so that's, when we met, Kevin was there, and then the first time we asked, offered him blueberry bushes, as I was concerned. We went back with the mayor to talk with them, we told him what we had, so we've now surveyed it and designed it. They're gonna go back this week and stake out the design, and then Kevin will go back and see how far it is. Per our conversation and our agreement with you, we said we would try to work around.
We have no agreement.
When I talked to you, like, what I told you.
Matthew, can you let me finish real quick? Just let me finish and we'll go from there with it.
That I would try my best to work around everything as we went through it. So we tried to have it so it doesn't affect his fence at all. Kevin, the contractor, would have to confirm whether he can construct the concrete swell and get the machinery back there to do that without affecting the fence. The concrete is outside of his fence line. The proposed concrete line for design is outside of his fence line.
Good?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do know that Kevin's done a real good job of working around fences the best he can, so. Any other questions?
Excuse me, one last thing. Another person that was involved in all this, I don't miss anything. Nothing. Is Jeremy coming back around at some point? Is he still involved in this?
Well, he's still involved, yes, he just had a conflict tonight, he couldn't make it tonight.
40 or 50 feet, remember that one?
Okay. Okay, so moving
On
on.
a side note, I do want to state that the fence that was installed, it is stated on the permit that was issued when that fence was requested, that in the event the fence was put into the stormwater easement, it is the responsibility of the homeowner to remove the fence. And that is on that permit.
Isn't it also in the middle of the, on Union County easement? Or is it, has he gotten a letter for that as well, or?
I cannot speak to that. There is a sewer, I see a sewer easement on that survey, but I cannot speak to that.
So we're saying he maybe or maybe not knows that, and should have done
The permit plainly states,
it. Yeah, I know, it says it, it's laid out, so we have grounds to stand on. Does he know that? Does he know that that?
he received a
The permit he
copy of the
received,
permit,
it's-
yeah.
He had quite a length, from what I understand, it's quite a lengthy conversation with Jeremy, or Matt, and Kevin the other day, and everything seemed to be going along smoothly. So I don't know what's got him twisted left. I wasn't there for the conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of the first I've heard of this part going in, I knew there was
Every
talk about it.
conversation has been very pleasant, so.
Yeah, I don't know what's got him twisted tonight, but
Well, what he didn't hear was, maybe because he didn't want to, and he came in hot preconceived, is there's been a survey done. And that there's a good chance that they won't, just like you tried saying, they couldn't hear it, was that there's a good chance you won't have to remove your fence, but not 100% chance.
Well, he may have to move it for us to work back.
Possibly.
That's what Kevin will have to decide once we have it.
Yeah,
and Kevin was even willing to.
Does he live to the right of you?
he does. If you're looking at my house, well, obviously.
That's looking at your house. Yeah, the pole and everything.
Yeah, there's nothing.
They haven't built, like, there was one homeless guy that was living there for a minute, but the kind sheriff escorted him out.
Okay, so do we have any other questions from Matt while he's here? He got his brow beating done, so.
Yeah, you see the rooms against you, it's poor Matt's over here by himself. Thanks for coming out, though.
We're all good.
Maybe you all know, but I'm just wondering, I'm thinking of next year's budget, and I heard Matt say that there is one project that immediately needed to be done. Do we have any idea of the dollar amount?
I don't know if we know until we get it done. That's what this feels like. We're not gonna know the total dollar amount till we get it done.
Now, I don't
Honestly,
think we've
from hitting
been to
that
the point to
study
engineer.
You mean from the big
You
projects?
said there were
No.
32 and one was immediate.
Right, but we don't know what that is yet because none of that's been.
Okay, we don't,
And we don't
you know,
have
we don't know if
estimates
it's
on that.
5,000 or 500,000.
It's not a dollar and a quarter, I can assure.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, Don.
It is underneath the roadway, and that's why it's an immediate fix. And I would say the roadway is 40 minutes itself off at this point. So it's, would be, whatever the width of the road is, I think Kevin would probably be able to ballpark, hey, if I had to replace some box to box within a, probably 22 feet of asphalt, but that helps. That is one worst case, the rest of them are very minor compared to that.
Is it gonna be a similar job to what the conifer repair was, do you know, or
You mean Conifer or Cortland and Carroll?
the conifer one that we did, that was right past Mother Teresa?
That's Carroll and
Yeah.
Portland, the
That's
big
Carroll
one
and Portland.
going out the back.
No,
Based on the one we get at Jeremy's house.
Oh, no, it will be more than what, the recent paving that was done. on-
We'll probably saw cut 15 feet from structure to structure, relay that pipe, so then that.
So it'll actually be.
More like Mr.
paved.
Bob's.
So it'll be a repair more along the lines of Carroll.
Carolyn Court,
Court.
close the road off there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, All right.
100% lock and close the road off as soon as they open up that asphalt at all.
That's it.
Yeah, so it's a much bigger project.
And you think that project will be done next 2 weeks?
4 weeks?
Yeah, and honestly, from there, we can go ahead and start scheduling meetings. I already have most stuff that's just cleaned up from there, so if you guys want to start seeing it, we can, or whenever we're ready to start having meetings.
What road is this on?
It's all the loop road that goes around the park.
So is it the Crafter Conifer? Okay.
And for that one, I'll go ahead and send that one over tomorrow. So that
Okay.
you have it. And we can start.
Thank
Everything
you.
else was doing like open space. And minor stuff.
More minor than that.
More minor.
All right. I think that's it. For Matt, you can stay, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, it might get more exciting.
I think he needs to go to Puerto Vallarta and get a margarita.
Unless we, do baseball practice.
Oh.
Well, thank you for coming, we appreciate it, thank you for answering our questions.
You're welcome. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sheree, you're up next with Christopher Channel.
Christopher Channel, it's ready to go, we're just waiting on dry weather.
That's happening anytime this week. So, okay. Everything's ready to go, just waiting for that, then, I guess we can bring up the Frost Court now and talk about that. Bruce, you wanna go into it, or you want me to, I mean, we pretty much all heard what
We
just
pretty
happened.
much discussed it already, you know.
Is we were told, last meeting, we talked about the next phase of this, we were thinking that it was something that was going to be done in another year, where we come back and do it. Well, if we really want to get flow out of it, we can spend money mucking it out, like he was saying, and cleaning the area out, let it flow again for however long till we have to do it again. Or we can just bite the bullet and take care of it. Now, they're coming to us now and saying, one of the reasons why they were saying to put that off was to give the homeowner that was just sitting right there some time for him to move his retaining wall, which from what I understand, last time I saw it was pretty bad shape. From what I understand, it's almost non-existent now.
Nature's removing it.
Nature's pretty much removing it, and he obviously said he had no concern over that. The fence is pretty
well
worried
said to
about.
just take it out of there.
Yeah, he's okay with that,
I
so.
mean, Kevin has been talking to this gentleman,
Mhm.
and this is the first time I've ever seen him. And told him he would try to help him in any way possible if the whole fence had been moved. He would work with him to move it. I don't know about blueberry bushes, I have no idea. I mean, if he can help move a fence, I'm sure we can move a blueberry bush.
I think Kevin's
Something's
told me
got
to
him,
do
something's
that.
got him all torqued out, I don't know what.
That's probably his neighbor.
So,
One of them.
It is, yeah.
One of them will make streets bothering him.
That's right. I think the other side. There's two neighbors.
you've got a budding properties, right?
We do.
So let me ask you this question. He's, seems to be upset about having concrete swellings out there. Just concrete in there. Is that gonna be unsightly? Is that where he was coming from? Or do you think it's gonna be
I
unsightly?
think, if I heard him correctly, he was frustrated because it didn't seem like there was a plan. Plan A was putting the concrete in, but there really wasn't a plan B. And I haven't gone back there, but I guess there's a dip there where they've dug out for plan B to come in, or the second phase. So he's not thinking ahead where the finished. Okay, so he got upset for nothing. It's like, it's gonna be fixed. You guys, I think, have approved this next phase.
No, that's what we're talking about right
We're
now.
not talking
That's our-
about now.
Yeah,
I mean, basically,
So-
probably what Kevin's crew is doing is a bit of exploratory surgery to see what and how
What's
deep
underneath
they
there.
could or couldn't go. It's not that they're looking to open up a large hole and just leave.
right, make a swimming pool.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, it was hard to understand exactly what his big gripe was on that. I know the fence was part, but, I don't think the appearance of it was anything that was going on.
No, I think he was offended that there were people in his backyard without there being notice. Which you can kind of get, it's like if they would have let him know that maybe that they were coming in a couple days, hey, we're gonna be in your area. Just, I just want to make you aware of that, if they just given him a heads up.
I mean, I know.
That started it.
I know
Can you tell
Kevin
him
knocked
to-
on his door, and Jeremy and Kevin knocked on his door with Matt, so it's not like they just went spread.
Well, my understanding was they were just there without asking. or they can give any.
Sometimes you get between husbands and wives talking and things get lost in confusion and all that, so.
And I wasn't there, so I can only speak of what I know from Jeremy and, Matt and Kevin.
Yeah.
That they spoke
Right.
to the gentleman
Right,
on two
right.
different occasions.
I mean, there's a right way and wrong way to handle things. I mean,
And somewhere.
getting frustrated. I've dealt with that before, so I think that could
I
possibly.
think we all have.
There was no talking logically at that point.
No, there was not. And that's what Matt wanted to show him, what he showed me, and he would have understood. So, also.
All right, so with that being said, do we want to move on with the project and finish it, or do we want to muck it out and kick this can down the road? I said that in a biased way, but what kind of talk do we want to have on this?
Let me ask this question. What's the cost for mucking it up?
I don't know, we didn't get that because we weren't thinking of it that way. Sheree, do you have an idea of,
I'm
are we
sorry.
talking 5,000,
Jeremy
10,000?
and Matt and Kevin were handling that. I can certainly I can place a call right now quickly and ask Kevin.
My other question is what's gonna happen where this water runs into the pond? Is that gonna be an issue?
He said that.
I mean, I heard him say, yeah, but I heard him say, I told him to move the rocks, maybe we don't move the rocks, I mean. Is that
He
gonna be
said that was
another
gonna be
20, 30,
built up
40,000?
more there. I'm sorry, man. I mean, I think he said that was gonna be built in such a way where it would drain into that. I don't know, but I did talk with Jeremy earlier today, and I don't think he'd mind me sharing this. He did say, hey, it's kind of, do we do it now and get it knocked out, or do we wait a year or two? And it's gonna be even more expensive. It's gonna eventually need to be done. Their equipment's already there. Why,
Landscaping issues.
all that stuff can be done at one point.
I see that part of it, Dan. The issue is, we went from a project we thought was gonna cost maybe
Right.
roughly 100,000,
Yeah,
and now it's gonna be 300,000.
he told me that too. He was like,
That's the issue.
yes, and having the money.
Yeah, it's not, should it be, I mean,
Right.
honestly, it should be done now while the stuff is there, but
Right.
again, we've taken a project that was under 100,000, now we're at 300,000.
I understand.
It has
That was-
changed a lot, and
Well, that's what I was asking, trying to figure out, is there a phase three? Is what's going on?
I guarantee it'll be a phase 3, but where it runs to the pond, there'll be some issue.
Well,
Did you see the picture? That I showed them?
Yeah, where the water was
You were able to
standing.
see it, yeah.
I'm gonna say, I'm asking what the cost of mucking is, but I'm in favor of cost.
I think Sherry is trying to quote.
Yeah, I'm the same boat as you are, Jim.
And keep in mind, Kevin could do that now because he's there. But who's gonna do it 6, 7 months from now?
No, like I said, I'm in
Yeah,
favor of concrete.
I'm
Just
sorry?
ask- I'm in favor of
Oh, I know
concrete.
that, yeah.
I'm just asking what.
But I'm trying to, just so Steve has an idea.
No, I totally understand it. My issue is, we took a project, it was 100,000, turned into a $300,000 project. Nothing with you, no issue on you.
Oh, I know that.
It's just one of those things, it's like, how in the world we go from here, I voted on something that to be under 100, and now I'm at 300, because we keep adding on every time we turn around.
Look
I
what we
agree with
keep-
you, it's frustrating.
Look what we keep running into within the village. I mean, there's been more issues like another hand grenade goes off. You got another sinkhole. You got another, storm drain box that's falling apart because it was the old style with brick and mortar. We had Crest Circle, which we had to take out and put a whole new pipe with 2 boxes. We'll never have that problem again because now they form concrete boxes.
Not there, but where will earth, I mean, there's a lot of other places.
I know, that's gonna be other places that are gonna come up. Every time I turn around, I'm finding something else.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure.
this legal engineering stuff, I mean, that's supposed to give us an idea of what we're into.
I've learned that if you got a project you say, I'm gonna say,
Sherry,
what's everything that could go wrong? Because it could be from here to there. I'm not a stormwater person, but it seems like there's always, everyone on grows that we're having to do.
So,
I too am very frustrated with how this has gone on and on and on. And I also think that we've gone this far, it's time to make it right and be done with it.
It'd be short-sighted not to do the
Yeah,
85. right?
Exactly.
I mean, and then
So-
we still got Christopher Channel that we have to do that went to the back burner because of all that's going on at Frost. And every time we turn around, we find other issues where the cable companies, whether it's telephone or whoever, never bothered to bury the cables right, they just lay it in there.
Yes.
And
See
it's
that
over and
happen.
over. And
You all inherited a mess.
Oh,
Thanks, Dan.
that's a nice thing.
Appreciate you pointing that out to us.
I once asked our former mayor,
Captain
David,
Obvious. Yeah.
who I'm friendly with, I said, did you put a whammy on us when you retired or what?
Sheree, did you get a mucking cost?
Kevin says he cannot give us a mucking cost. He said the best I can do at this point, because he's not seen, some staking that they, apparently did late this afternoon. But he said you're probably looking at between a third and a half, because he doesn't know how far the cut's how deep the cut has to be to just muck it out. So,
So to mark it out, even if you said a third of that, you're looking at 30 grand, that is probably gonna be wasted, because you're gonna.
Right,
go back and do it again,
Down the
yeah.
road.
It's
It's not
not-
small.
We learned that.
On
earlier.
the channel, we spend the money on,
and
so.
he also, said that regardless whether it be just mucked out or concreted, as soon as he touches the rest of the channel, that retaining wall's coming down. There's
Yeah,
nothing to
well,
support it. It's-
And that
it's-
gentleman
it
doesn't,
collapses.
And he's,
care-
and he's
care about
said
it.
it's clear. I mean, it doesn't matter because it's in the
No.
easement, but
Just
it's
in the-
easier when they doesn't care. and It says that, so that, we got that. So it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement that we want to go ahead and finish phase 2 of this project.
So we need a motion to.
Let's get a motion for
Well,
that.
let me, before we go down, hold on. Do we have the 85,000 in it? Do we gotta?
We're gonna have to figure that out too,
We
yes.
have to move it.
Yes.
We're really dipping into fund balance, yeah. Getting
Yeah, we
real
are.
nervous.
So we gotta do. a
When it's
motion
gone, it's
first
gone.
To move 85,000 out of fund balance to stormwater. That motion on the floor.
All right, Jim's made the motion to move the money from fund balance to stormwater. Can I get a second?
I'll say,
Bruce, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay,
What about that
Motion
emergency
passes.
situation where cars go over? I know I'm stepping out of my bounds, but that sounds more important than a little bit of muck in a drainage ditch, where he said that's an emergency where.
We just can't really speak on that right now. We don't
Yeah,
know.
We don't know where it's at.
We don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because that sounds that's scary.
We'll have to have engineering on that and everything before we can really go any farther on that. So we have no clue.
again, just backing up to what I said earlier, when I went to this stormwater symposium, and there were towns and villages from all over North Carolina there, Everybody has the same issues happening with what's going on with the changing climate and weather. It's becoming a real nightmare. There are, I can't remember the name of the towns, I probably haven't written back down at my office, where people had nice dry properties, and now when it rains, they have 3 foot into their house. Because everything has changed.
Yeah, we're not unique in
No.
stormwater issues by any means.
I didn't realize how ununique we were until I sat there and listened to some of these stories. I told you, Christmas.
So that 85,000 is being moved to the Frost Court project, is that correct?
Correct,
yes.
stormwater first, but yeah, and then I'll put a motion out to spend $85,000 in phase.
Two.
Well, cost not to exceed 85,000.
Cost not to exceed $85,000.
Okay. Jim's made the motion. Mark seconded. Any more conversation on it? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion passes. All right, next is the stormwater mapping project, which we just talked about. We're assuming in the next couple of weeks, we'll have some finality to it. And hopefully we can go over that, probably set up another meeting for that. Stormwater grant opportunity. Give us some good news, Sherry.
Gotta raise it.
Am I talking too fast? I'm sorry.
We don't want to. Tell us now.
She doesn't run as fast as y'all thought.
So
Who brought this northerner in here?
Jim Record made the motion. Who seconded the second? Mark.
Mark's.
Thank you. And then the vote was unanimous.
Yes.
All right. I actually talked with, Sarah and I talked with, Kane. I had a sheet of paper. Oh, here we go. With Kane Riggin today, he's the grant development specialist, and he's requesting some additional information on our grant. So the good news is we're not dead in the water yet. The bad news is we've got to do some more work to answer the questions, and he had main, questions that he needs, more details from us on. So we are working on it. Once we get that information to him, then it's a 90-day waiting period to know whether or not we, qualify. And then from that, we, hope to be able to pull from the stormwater mapping project some shovel ready, even though it'll cost us some money up front to have the project shovel ready. If we can present some shovel ready projects, see if we qualify for some grants for those in addition to the, some of the mapping.
That'd be nice if we do something on that road project.
But this is a work in progress. I mean, until I have $1 in hand, I don't count on anything because
Mhm.
this is the federal government.
Absolutely.
Thanks for what you're doing on that.
Yeah, it's great. It's still moving along, so.
We're still moving.
Let's keep our fingers
one step
crossed and hope
forward,
that,
yes.
that goes forward there. All right, now we're down to the sinkhole on Frederick Street.
Which
From
was
what-
found by accident, by.
I was gonna say, from what I understand, this when they found it by accident. If you see this picture down here on the bottom, the left picture there, that's a pickaxe that's a good part of its handles down in that hole. So this is a pretty bad situation, but this one is one that seems like is a good job for Dry Pro.
That's where we're heading towards. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have it cameraed when they do it to make sure that there's no intrusion.
Have the same problem we have on Crest Circle.
And if there is an intrusion into the pipe, then we have to have it jetted out.
Yeah, so if you see on there, the total amount of $4,480. You have the Dry Pro fee, then the camera fee for them to watch it, and then jetting is in case we need it. If it goes in there, if it takes from the pipe that's there again and fills it up and blocks it, this way we know and can fix it up right away instead of having another flood like we had last
Here's
time.
the irony of the whole thing. Originally, I got an email from a resident right over there that the asphalt was breaking up, coming apart, like. And I went over and looked at it. Yes, it was. And Jeremy met me over there and we saw it. And then, when Kevin went over to take measurements and what have you, he found that behind the storm water box on Frederick and across the street on, was it Logan, I think?
Yes,
So
Logan's
between the
one.
side.
Behind the box, it's all caving in. So that's when we found this, and they've already taken care of the repairs to both boxes on Frederick and Logan. Kevin's fellows took care of it. Fortunately, it was not severe, but if we had not seen it, it would have become severe. And there might even been an incident where somebody, or a kid, because there's kids in that neighborhood, could have gone behind that stormwater box and ended up getting hurt like Bill's wife did on Frost. That's how that all started on Frost. So that's what I mean about the infrastructure is just deteriorating all around. So that's where this, and then Kevin called me and said, you gotta come over and see this, and I go over, and the person that lives in the one house to the left there, the driveway, you can see the edge of the driveway, wasn't even aware that was there. Had no idea. I mean, they mowed the lawn and everything, had no clue. So fortunately, nobody got hurt.
And that's the other thing, if you look at that too, Bruce was saying the driveway right there, if we fix this conventionally by pulling up the pipes and all, we're talking driveway and $15,000-$20,000 repair easy.
Because that's the resident's original driveway, they did not add to it,
Mhm.
and it just comes in on an angle and turns to go up to the garage.
So does this need, do you need approval out of shooting sidewalks?
I don't know what,
Still have a stormwater, wouldn't it?
stormwater, I would think, not even streets and sidewalk, because it's.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a stormwater repair,
Stormwater.
but we don't have that. I mean, I don't know if Christopher Channel's gonna end up being able to be done between now and June 30th.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Christopher Channel, I mean, it's supposed to happen, but I don't know. It's a matter, you're either gonna move money out of fund balance, or you're going, we can use what's in stormwater right now and see if it happens.
Does it matter that it's already committed or?
It just matters, we need to know what we're gonna spend by the end of June.
Yeah, and I can't.
Do we have money sitting in fund, in, stormwater for Christopher Channel now?
Yes,
Yeah,
How much?
that's already been set aside.
that money, I don't, I mean, it's in there. I don't know. We
I thought we
moved
already
it.
approved all of that.
Yeah.
It must be in the past minutes.
I was wondering.
Well, I mean, we'd have to go back and look. at
This
it.
is going back about 6 months, probably.
Oh, it's more than that,
Yeah,
I mean, I know Kevin has full intent,
of
if
getting
the
it
weather
done.
decides to cooperate, of getting both Frost and Christopher done before the end of June.
Yes,
That's his intent, weather permitting, unfortunately, that's what we're.
Well, if we think it's gonna get done, then we should be appropriating enough money to do it all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably the
that's probably the best way to do
now.
that, so we need to take more money out of fund balance now. So first off, we need a motion to move $4,480 from fund balance to stormwater.
I'll make that motion.
Mark makes the motion, Move second. Jim seconds.
Yeah.
Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
And hopefully, we won't need the jetting service, so that's a little bit in limbo.
Yeah, that could save us $800 there, so. Now can I get a motion to have Dry Pro repair the pipe for $2,880 and include Cameron and possible jet servicing from Eagle Engineering for a total of $1,600?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Steve made the motion, Jim second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. All right, motion carries.
Is the camera, an engineering cost?
yes.
Yes,
Okay, because when we moved the money, then we should have moved 800 to stormwater.
Do we have money in engineering or do we need more money in
No, we
engineering?
don't.
Okay, do we want to modify that motion to,
Well, we just gotta move $800 out of stormwater.
but the jet servicing is not considered engineering, even though it's through?
I don't know, I'm not sure. what
Eagle
this
does
is.
the jet servicing and the, camera.
So the 1,600.
So
So
16.
So maybe you meant when you did the motion, you meant to move 1,600 to the stormwater engineering and the rest to the stormwater.
Yes.
You didn't understand it that way?
Yeah, well, I just want to clarify that, that's what.
you had to read
It's
between the
done.
lines, Cheryl.
All right. The last project is another new one.
Wait just one second.
Okay.
So 1,600 fund balance to engineering stormwater. Then Steve Tudor made the motion to fund the project.
No, I made the motion to do the project, not the fund.
I think.
Mark made the motion to fund the project, I seconded, Steve did do the project, and I seconded.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I know I'm getting ready to put you on the spot. Council, we have moved money for stormwater tonight. We have spent a lot of money. I was, looking at this Alden spillway is in bad shape. But honestly, and I've got 2 bids on it. I have bids from Foster Lake and Pond and from Lucas. I need to know if it's the pleasure of council. You're looking at 8114 to do that project. If you want to try to do that this fiscal year, or do you want me to wait and come back in July, recognizing that?
What's wrong with it?
So, yeah, that's the main question, what is it?
The spillway, which is on the backside of Alden, so
The
closest to
concrete.
the civil, no, it's all riprap.
Yeah.
It has just, the riprap,
Yeah.
it has just washed through the years and it's not functioning as it should, but it's not, it's the emergency spillway. At this point, it is still functioning, but not as it should. It's not at its optimal right now.
No, so, I know it's
$100.
Is that something that should be put back with riprap, or is that something that should be?
Yes, riprap is more than adequate for that project.
I don't know if that would be
Yeah,
something.
no.
that would be done.
And is it gonna cause any issues if we wait till July?
I can't answer that from the standpoint of it's not functioning It's functioning at about 80% right now.
How did we learn about this? Did somebody?
It was brought to our attention, and then we went over and looked, and, I don't have a picture of it to show you.
That's okay, but it was brought to our attention from Foster Lake on the inspection.
Foster Lake and Pond.
I didn't know if it was a
yes.
resident that
No,
brought it to our
well,
attention.
both. It was, Susanna Zarka brought it to our attention at Foster Lake and Pond on their bi-monthly pond inspection. Put it on the list, but, you know, it is the pleasure of council, and like I said, at some point,
Some point there's gotta be a,
yeah.
let's say, we gotta just
So
hold off on
you
something.
tell me.
I don't see where 50 days is gonna make that much of a difference.
I don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference either. I mean, we're coming out of our rainy season and it'll be dry and we should be able to do it. So it's, yeah.
Table it until next month. and-
So I say table it the next year.
Everybody's good with tabling that?
Everybody okay with that?
Steve? Yeah, sure.
Table that. Cheryl, you're up.
Okay, you have the April financial reports and we're at 101% of budgeted ad valorem tax. We still will be getting in some more motor vehicle tax this year, and we'll definitely be getting in quite a bit of state shared revenues because we'll be getting a payment in June and a payment in September that gets accrued back this year. So I think all of our expenditures are within budget. We were at 99% of the engineering fees, so that's why we were pretty close on these. So I don't think we have any problem items. Does anyone have any questions about any line item? For the budget for next year, the budget hearing would be at the June meeting. And I know that Jeremy had put reps at the budget hearing June 10th and he put 17th. Lake Park is a little different. I've never, you can just have, a budget hearing can be one item on your regular agenda. So you could just make it on the June 10th agenda.
Don't usually do it beforehand as a public hearing.
You don't have to do that.
Okay, we don't have to do that.
No, you can just make it as, you know, the first item or do it right after public comments, somewhere in there.
So we don't have to call for the
Well, you
meeting.
would have to call
Okay.
for.
We have to
public hearing,
advertise for it.
Okay,
because it's a public hearing, not necessarily.
so can we get a motion for holding
A public
a
hearing
public
on the
hearing, okay,
budget
public hearing on the budget for next
at
month's
the June
meeting?
10th meeting.
June
yeah.
10th.
I'll make that motion.
Jim made the motion, Bruce second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion passes.
And you've all seen the proposed budget. You spent an evening contemplating it.
Who knows if we'll change any of it.
I do want you to notice, per Joe Scaldero's request, the fee schedule, the budget, I'm sorry, the budget was printed larger.
I noticed that. God, I feel old.
So,
I was the one asking for that.
Yeah, you got your eyes together.
It's actually great.
and I did email out to you all the post fee schedule with the changes per your discussion at the budget workshop. You received that electronically. If anyone needs a paper copy, I'll be glad to print that for you, but I did not. I did just print the budget.
All right, we'll move on to Parks and Rec. I'll go through this real quick since Jeremy's not here. You guys notice the new roof? Looks great. We got the new roof from the community center. Bumblebee did a really good job. It's Rumblebee, actually. Rumblebee, like Park
I like
resident.
Bumblebee as well.
Yeah, Bumblebee is another company that they advertise too, but it's Rumblebee, Lake Park company. They did a really good job on it. I'm happy with it. So it looks like they did a good job cleaning up and everything else along with it too. So keep that in mind. Everybody asks. Girls on the Run had a record number of of participants, and they gave us trees they donated.
Do you know how many the number?
I don't know what the number was. I just heard it was a record. Did you hear? Or-
I just heard over 500, but I think they were close to 1,000. I can certainly reach out and ask.
Yeah,
for
It
you.
was packed in the park. over there.
Well, I wish I remembered the time. That first person came across that line pretty fast. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, it just started because I was looking out the window. I was like, what time does it start, Teresa? Because there's somebody already crossing the line.
They were in and out of here faster than they ever
Yeah.
have been, so.
I've lived here for 15 years and I've never gotten up early enough for that event.
Nor will you ever, Mark.
Everybody was running.
I would say
Yeah,
that they
Yeah.
had maybe over 1,000. There were.
Yeah,
There was a lot of people out there.
There was a lot.
Yeah. It just kept on coming and coming and wow.
I'll ask for you, Mark, and get you a number.
All right, thanks.
Okay, and we've got the Memorial Day event, May 26th, Veterans Pond. Special speaker is former Mayor Cleveland. He's agreed to be our speaker this year, so that should be really good. And I hope to see everybody out there. It's a very well-attended event. A lot of people really enjoy that. Park and Rec's next meeting is June 23rd. It's got general items on their agenda, so. That's it for Parks and Rec. Planning Board, Steve, they had a meeting on April 15th.
Yes, we had a planning board meeting. Review and discuss the text amendment recommendations that were provided by the consultant related to the public stormwater easement. We didn't want to push that ahead yet to council because we had a couple of people out. So they wanted those two people that had comments on it, so they held that for now. And they also discussed, what's needed from the village for standpoint for having a swimming pool. What's required for the soil test, things like that. So they're doing some due diligence around that to figure that out and come back with some ideas from that perspective.
So they're gonna meet again, May 20th.
That's the date.
Anything else?
One other thing, Steve, apology, sent an email to Cherie and Jeremy on today about kind of legislative changes that may be hanging out there, potentially related to development ordinance, legislation and requirements. I will forward that to you tomorrow or the day after, just so you get a flavor of it. There's the possibility of some pretty substantial changes coming. So hopefully that will be the case. But you know how it is, just stick stuff in budgets. And
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'll get
Yeah, send that over.
to you.
Thanks.
My apologies.
No problem.
Is that it for planning board?
That's it.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Is it something, Ken, that council might want to make a letter to the legislature regarding?
Yeah, I don't know how close it is to passage or not. It relates to, they certainly are headed towards deregulating what the local governments can do regarding even accessory structures and all kinds
I
of.
know they're hounding on HOAs too.
I don't have enough sufficient knowledge to be able to say one way or the other whether that's the case. It might be worth, Steve looks at it, again, I should send it to you. It's just an individual's comments about things that might be happening. It might be worth speaking to your own local representative and seeing where they stand or what they acknowledge they have about it.
Okay. Thanks, Ken.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ken.
Waste collection.
Jim, you're up.
Same thing, month over month, it is doing what it's doing. I will say, I know that we're doing work on Frederick, Logan, Emery, that's what we're doing for. Waste Force, I did be out there first and we wanted to get that, so they're off those, they're changing their schedule, they're running just a little bit to make that happen.
That's good.
And I understand we have to add Bobby Lake to that.
Yes, that'd probably be a good idea.
Okay.
It's a whole nother story. We'll get to that in a minute here.
All right,
Okay. Yeah, that's it for trash?
that's it.
Thank you. All right, streets and sidewalks. Bruce, you want to start this? You want me to start it?
Either way, I can start it. We had already started on what we approved as far as the three cul-de-sacs, which were Emma and Etheridge and Brittany, right?
Yes.
And as life would have it sometimes with everything that goes on, although Kevin went over with his foreman the three cul-de-sacs, then Kevin went on to check out the job, came back, and they were working. The third time he came back, they were on Bobby Lane. Tearing it up, this is, what did you know we did? oh, this was the next one in the rotation. No, it wasn't, so this crew got goofed up and went to Bobby Lane instead of whichever one they were supposed to, or going to go to next. The point remains, it's already been started. Sooner or later, it was gonna have to get done anyhow. It wasn't in this grouping, the next grouping. I talked with Kevin. I even spoke with Jeremy and spoke with Joe. And what Kevin is doing is he's saving us $2,000, because normally when there's a manhole, it's $9,500. Bobby Lane has a manhole. So technically, it would have been $9,500. So he's doing it at $8,500 and also removing the charge of $1,000 to another cul-de-sac that has a manhole. So we're saving $2,000. So I just need approval to have it done. I mean, he's already doing it, so either way, it's gonna get done.
Now, really, we need an approval for 1,000 less, not 2,000 less, because one of the things is the Emma Court, was it Emma that we didn't
Yes.
realize? Emma Court, we didn't realize that there was a manhole in the center of it, so that was gonna raise our price by $1,000
Right.
from what we've already approved. So he's not gonna charge us any more for doing the manhole at Emma and do the manhole at Bobby for no additional charge too.
Correct.
So it's not really $2,000 less, it's only 1,000 less than what we've already approved, because we'd have to go for another 1,000.
Right.
So how much are we asking for?
For Bobby Lane, the 8,500.
8,500, that coming out of streets and sidewalks, coming out of,
We've been doing that at Powellville.
Powellville?
Powellville's where we've been doing it.
Okay, so we prove up to 8,500 to remove, Bobby Lane cul-de-sac from Powellville.
Okay, Jim's made a motion, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Mark second, any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Frederick Street update?
Well, he's trying to get it done this week. Because he did have a cancellation of a temporary cancellation of a large concrete job this week, so that's why he moved into doing the cul-de-sacs and Frederick. Let's hope the weather behaves itself tomorrow.
So, I have a question. Where, the pavement work that's being done on Frederick Street, is that gonna, how is that street repaired to that? What's going on from the two?
I mean,
Is all of Frederick Street being paved?
No,
no, just up to Logan.
Just that?
so basically, if you come in off of Conifer, the stretch there that's Frederick and what dips down this way, just like two houses,
Okay.
is what's being redone.
Was the piece that was washed out?
Correct.
Yes.
It looks like originally, somewhere along the line in the past, somebody did a repaving of part of that street and did not, strip it down, they just did an overlay.
Mhm.
So that's why it's now peeling, almost like a sunburn, it's just peeling away, almost an inch and a half thick. It's coming off the sides and working its way towards the center of the street. So now he's gotta mill it down and then, with the way it should have been done the first time, back with whoever did it. And, lay it in the proper way. And again, we would not have known about this if I did not receive an email with photos from a resident over there.
Okay.
Why are we doing drywall on 15 of them and, remove and replace concrete?
I had that same question too, we'll get to that in a second, I had that same
Coming up
question.
next.
It's like you're talking $666 roughly versus $555. It's cheaper to replace and remove the sidewalk panel.
And move into that now, I guess.
I had the same question, Mark, and it's it's either or. Okay, we have 15 panels that have been compromised
By trees.
And we could go through that and fix those 15 panels for $10,183 with Drive Pro. Because with Drive Pro,
Do all the other stuff.
well, Drive Pro, all we have to do is fix that one panel.
Right.
When it comes down to fixing it properly,
Then we'd have to have tree service and everything else.
then we take the panels out. It takes more than 15 panels to repair it. You can't just take one out in some cases. It's going to be 63 panels to do it, but by doing that, we're removing the tree roots and everything underneath it, correct, Bruce?
Correct.
Yeah. So.
That's good, I don't have to say a word, he's doing well.
I had the same question, so I had it all fresh on there. So by doing it this way, but, you know, it's basically comparing the two. I was thinking that we were looking at 15 panels, why would we be replacing a panel for more than, or repairing a panel for more than it is to replace it? But it was an either or situation, not a this and this.
Yeah,
And
the
the
Drake
thing is-
Road area is, where there's no tree limbs, right?
Well, no,
Or is it temporary?
It's the same area.
right,
It's
if
the
we
same
can,
area.
it's the same area.
Temporary.
There's 15 panels total that are compromised. Fixing it through Drive Pros way would only require us to lift those 15 panels.
Right.
Now, if we wanted to fix it by replacing the panels, we have to do more than 15 because you gotta take up a section of panels at a time.
I got all that.
So that takes 63 panels to do that. So it's not, we got a 15 panel job and we have a 63 panel job.
But what I'm saying is, if you replace the panels, the problem is solved.
Correct.
Because all the
If
roots
you
are
do
gonna
Drive
come out.
Pro, it's temporarily solved.
Correct, and also, as Drive Pro put it to me in writing, if another panel should crack, oh well, it's up to us to pay for the replacement of that panel. So there's really no win-win situation with Drive Pro. Because they're leaving all the roots underneath, right, they're just pumping in their substance, and we could end up with another disaster like we had on Faith Church Road.
So we could end up paying 666 plus 555,
Plus, yeah.
plus
Whereas
the tree and all that.
removing the panels, what'll happen is KC will come in, take the panels up, then Kuiper Tree Service will come in, take the trees and all the roots out.
Right.
So
Is
they're
that, is that the other 5,000 down there?
correct,
So it's not 34,000, it's 39.
correct. So, but then, that's it, you know, the trees are gone, the roots are gone, and we move on from there.
And these trees are between the sidewalk and the road?
Yes, sir.
Because I noticed as I rode around, there's a lot of trees that's in people's yards that's messing up the sidewalk.
That's a
So,
different story.
how many-
That's,
How many
they're
trees,
not on our door.
how many trees is that, Bruce?
That he'll be taking out?
Yeah, Piker.
Go back to my list, I think it's like 19 trees or 18 trees.
Then you have to have Lucas come in and grind the area and plant,
This is what
Grass
this
and
includes
everything.
removing the roots and also
Right.
maybe grinding it too, or?
or is
Well, he's
Kuiper-
grinding it.
Kuiper grinds the stone.
Yeah, there's like 15 trees.
15.
But then we have to have Lucas come in and plant grass and everything?
Well,
I don't,
I don't even know if it's gonna be, I hadn't even thought about that. You know, to be honest with you, it's one,
Because we've always had Lucas come in and do something with it. After Kuiper took the trees
Yeah,
down.
Lucas got, there's there's usually a berm there from the tree, so Lucas comes in, takes away all of that and seeds it.
I mean,
Put dirt in and,
I did speak with Kevin. and Find out if he could just fill in where the tree was. And seed and straw it, be done with it. Because you're not talking a massive area, you know, just talking exactly where the tree was ripped out.
I say we just go ahead and work with this right now, and then if there's something needs to be done with that, we'll let Parks and Rec take care of that.
There you go.
Sheriff's not gonna bother with that.
That's what I'm trying to.
So we'll just
So-
work with
Now, I
this.
got some crap between, Meeting and Oak Park Road. There's 2 trees that are actually on the house side that
That's-
are ripping up the sidewalk.
That's gonna be where, hi, Mr. Resident, we have a problem with the tree that's on your property. Well, that's another issue.
So this is coming out of Powell as well? Or is this
no,
No, this is coming out of
street and sidewalk?
Trees and Sidewalks.
How much money do we have in street sidewalks?
Carol, see?
I don't think we have very much.
we might have to do the dropper.
Oh, no.
Hopefully those trees on that property aren't mats.
They're not blueberry trees, so. There you go.
For sidewalks, we have $1,400.
What, street repair? How much we have in that?
Only, we only have money in Powellville, we don't have any other money otherwise.
Okay. We can't use Powellville for sidewalk? We could.
I thought I saw something that was good. We talked about this before.
We can use
Yeah,
the
we could for
cul-de-sacs.
sidewalks ones on the road, but not the ones inside the park.
Yeah,
Yes.
So we said last year.
yeah.
That's the reason we put a separate budget for the sidewalks last year to take care of the ones inside the park and then the ones along the street where, I mean, that's what we said.
Yeah.
You can
So
spend
these
your.
are all-
That's what you said, Shirley.
How about Park and Rec? How's their financial status?
I
They
can't
don't have
speak for
34,000.
As long as they're on the street.
Well, they're between, yeah, the street and the sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, they're not in the common area.
They're not in the common areas, what I'm saying.
Correct.
So, well, first off, we gotta decide, I think we've already decided, but just make sure, we wanna go the route of replacing the panels as opposed to the temporary fix and dry grow, is that?
Correct.
Is that really what everybody's feeling? Okay, so, can we get some motions here then?
So
We need two separate motions.
We need 34,000 then.
Well,
They need 39,600.
39,000.
39.
We're not
Oh,
gonna,
okay, right.
but we
But then you're
gotta
gonna need
have
more,
them.
you're gonna need more from that because you're gonna have to fill in the holes and.
Well, that we can take up.
39.
Next meeting, 'cause I'll
You
see if
really and
Kevin will
truly
handle
ought to look at about 40, what, about $43,000
For what?
to potentially do some backfill? How much?
If we have to get Lucas.
Okay,
If I could speak with Kevin and see if he will take care of filling in those holes.
Why don't we just figure in the extra amount if we don't have it? We don't have
But,
to
but
spend
get
it.
with Kevin on.
Oh,
If Kevin will do it, great, but if we have to do something else with it, let's do it.
Solid is 45.
And we're, yeah,
No, I don't know, where are these,
yeah, they're Powellville.
They're,
None of them are in the
Okay,
common
then we
area.
can use that.
So I put a motion out to spend up to $43,000 to replace 45.
Go to 45, just,
$45,000, up to $45,000 to replace the 63 panels and for pipe up for 5,000.
move the trees and the roots.
Move the trees and the roots and replace the panels.
and additional money for landscaping.
And landscaping.
If need.
if we-
Okay, so I got a motion, get a second? Mark second. Any questions? Conversation? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carries.
As a footnote, I've been doing a bit of research, and I think Sherry put me onto it originally. There might be a way to take out sidewalks, put rebar in, try not to disturb the root growth. Because let's face it, once you disturb the root growth, the tree's gonna die. Not today, not tomorrow, but a year or two. And possibly still not have to touch the trees. So that's something I'm gonna look in down the road, because we got a lot of issues. I mean, I walk around Conifer where there used to be 2 trees that are long gone, the roots are still growing, because the sidewalk panels are pushed out.
If it's, you got if you're looking at what it costs to replace a sidewalk and then add the rebar fee to it, I wouldn't imagine it'd be that much more than what it costs to remove the tree. And we still have a tree too.
That's possible, that's what I gotta get into more.
So Cheryl,
I was just gonna say, have you talked to the urban forester? At least when I was still at Wesley Chapel, there was a new urban forester who was really doing a good job and had a lot of great ideas. That might be a resource for you.
First I've heard of that idea. You can give me the information, I'll give it
I
a
talked
call.
to him the other day.
Oh, you know?
so with that being in mind of a possible way that we might be moving, do we need to have any conversation about the strips right now of tree encroachment damaging? The next thing on the,
I think we should. We started it last time.
so like we just right now spent money to take down trees that are in the strip between the sidewalk and the road. So what's our future gonna be with that is,
Okay, so I did a little drive by, looking at trees, common trees, where they're at. What most likely the developer, and builders have planted versus what looks like, owners have planted between the streets and the sidewalk only. I didn't do every single street, but I was at 178 trees. I didn't do every street. I did a good number, I probably did about 75%. Just on Concord, excuse me, Craft, on the townhomes, there's 20 trees. You know? And it's just, and it can just go. There's crepe myrtles, there's other bushes, trees that homeowners have planted out between there. There's a lot of things that needs to be addressed. So I will say, one, there's a lot that needs to be taken care of. Do they all have to happen all at once? No. But we do know those Bradford pears are aging out. They're only at a 25-year life cycle, and we're past that. So stuff are happening. There are things happening with the sidewalks. I don't know how we could turn around and say, if we're taking something out, turn around and say, homeowner, it's on your property, but it's not your property, it's town property. Well, we're gonna charge you, fix that, but it's not their tree, they didn't put it in. I'm finding it hard to say, turn around, I think the town owns, or has the, you know, fixing the sidewalk, we get rid of the tree. I just think the town is paying for that, whether we take it or not. We're just talking here, we're not making any decisions at all.
No, there's no decisions being made right now on that. I don't think that we should go any farther than what we've already gone into is that unless it's damaging infrastructure, we don't stay away from it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Do
We'll
that.
see where things are.
And I do think it would be a good idea to research a little bit more about having the rebar reinforced. Stallings is doing, they're requiring that for the people they're asking for their bids. On their RFQ, they're asking for that, they're saying that's what they want, go to that standard, so. That would probably be the next.
Indian Bobby Lane has 6 Bradford trailers on the, all along Alden Street, so I mean, we still have our own trees, that's just, you know, there's a lot.
I gotta say, for most of the sidewalk replacements that I've been involved with since I came on board over 5 years ago, even if there was not a tree there, when it was dug up, guess what we found underneath? Huge roots that were still alive.
Roots have their own life cycle and lifespan. They still grow even if there's nothing above surface.
And they had a lot of, especially around Concord, I did 6 panels on one side and 7 on the other all at once. And every section had roots underneath, and I'm talking good 12 inch in diameter.
I think we've set it up already by what we're doing. Right, if something happens, it's our responsibility as a village, because it's not on the person's property, it's on the village's property. No different than a tree that's in the park, you know, or whatever. If it's damaged the sidewalk, we'll pay to take it out. I think you're doing the same thing with that. I think that's the right answer.
Yeah. Now, I will say, we do, not here right now, not to just throwing this out here, but there's some, they got some, I'm not gonna give any street names here, there's one homeowner with 7 crepe myrtles inside here, there's others that have 6, there's 2, there's 1, there's some crepe myrtles and some other growing trees, there's river birches, I mean, that shouldn't be planted where they're planted, what they're growing. There's things that are out there that I doubt the developer or builder put in for those types of trees. We have to make a decision. For that common area, are we going to allow plantings? And that's something that's has to be decided by council, and then the ordinance review committee would take a look at that and say, okay, where would we put that in here for common areas?
I think we need to look into what other municipalities are doing on this. And then move on from there, find out what other ones are doing. We need to, I think that's probably the reason why most places put that onus onto the homeowner, is they allow them to plant stuff there as well. We have no idea what trees in our, you were talking about all these different ones, river birch, the crepe myrtles, and the, everything else that's out there. We don't know which ones we planted, were planted or
We
not.
don't know.
So.
I know when I asked, it was like, no, you can't plant anything out there. That's the village's problem. That's what I was told.
I've never asked, I know I had a tree fall down and I called the office. I got Travis Baker's phone number. So I do know that. But anyhow. That's what I think we should do is research a little bit of what's going on. See what we can find with other municipalities do. Sure, he's got a lot of friends that I know she'd be willing to talk with and find out some of theirs and see what we can get.
That's also something that the urban forester helped Wesley Chapel do, because we had a whole to do with trees and swales and a new development.
You gonna plan on reaching out to that gentleman?
Yeah, I'll get the information. Sure.
He helped us write out.
I hear that, Joe, but I think we're already setting that example.
Well, what we've said so far is that we'll remove it in order to
Fix the
stop
sidewalk.
damage to any infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So we're sort of setting that if something happens and the tree dies, it's same concept.
Let's look into it, see where we're at. I don't think we're gonna make any decision on anything
No,
tonight,
no.
are we?
It's in the forming stages.
Okay. Anything else on
I'm familiar.
that? All right, sign, Bruce, what we got?
Well, Jeff came over and managed to dig out the piece that you need to wedge in the ground for the pole, so he's got that out now. So I just got a key in with him, I'll reach out to him tomorrow, I didn't get a chance today to see when he's gonna come over, because he can put the old equipment on the new pole right here in our garage, and then go down and plant it.
What part is it, Miss?
There's a piece when you put the pole in the ground, there's like a wedge piece that goes in, that you drive down and keeps the pole intact and straight. As opposed to pouring concrete and everything. And that's what he had to dig out of the ground from where the original one was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody asked me about it today.
And it was a bit of a pain in the backside to dig it out. I think he was out there for a good 45 minutes, just digging that little, it's only about that big. But it was in there because that piece of the pole was still in the ground.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So a week, 10 days, we should be okay.
I would say, yes, I think that's a safe bet. I just wish I could see more people using those.
Yeah.
They're just, and the best part is, people, and the lights aren't flashing, people come to a stop sometimes when they see those signs, like, oh my God, So, I'm waiting for somebody to have a rear end collision out there on Faith Church, it's amazing.
It is.
Anyhow. That's all I can say.
Potholes and patching?
Yeah, we got, near the community center, we're gonna get some patching done there, because we got quite a divot opened up. And then over on Meeting Street, kind of in line with what's going on with the infrastructure again, the last storm drain at the end of Meeting Street, right by the other side of Creft. There's a gap in front of the storm drain box. That's about almost the width of the storm drain and the depth of about 3.5 to 6 inches across, and it's deep. So that's gotta be patched.
Is that gonna be a patch or is it gonna keep falling?
No, it should not keep falling based on my conversation with, both Matt and Kevin. It should be a done deal.
Okay, so this is gonna be cut, we're cutting out, we're not just filling potholes, they're cutting it out.
Yeah.
Square.
Right.
All right, so looks like we're looking for a motion for $2,810 for KC Site Concepts out of the PAL bill.
Correct.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mark's made the motion. Who wants to second it?
Second.
All right, Jim seconds. Any other conversation? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. All right, motion passes.
Just another small example of what's going on.
These $2,800 ones aren't that bad. We could deal with it.
So the thing is,
Unless it
I'm
turns into,
Well, that's why I was like, how deep is
I'm
it?
glad we caught it before things really started to ramp up with the park and food trucks and everything else. And next thing you know, we got,
Street caving in on us.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Bruce.
No problem.
All right, now it's my turn here. Public service lighting, Veterans Pond, hopefully today, I don't know if it was or not, I didn't get a chance to check out, the fountain was installed. We've already got the conduit's been put in, they ran into a little bit of problem, a lot of rock in that area. but they ended up having to go, take a section of the sidewalk out, put it in, dig out the area, and then put the sidewalk back instead of boring it. They did it for no additional cost. So that's good. Hopefully electrical work will be done soon, and it will be hopefully up and operating by Memorial Day. Of course, we'll probably turn it off for the ceremony, but we'll have it on there. Hopefully that'll be ready to go. Ordinance Review Committee, we did meet, April. We had a pretty good meeting for the most part as far as setting our footwork of what we want to do. I had some resistance that I was not expecting on two of the issues that were main issues that wanted to be talked about. One was the nuisance ordinance and the other was parking. The nuisance ordinance, a lot of people on the committee thought that it may be better for us to adjust our current ordinances to allow nuisance items in it. We kind of separated a few different sections of it for people to look into it. We have one person looking into the parking ordinance. We have one person looking into the animal control ordinance to see what we can add into that. We're also looking at the parking ordinance to see what we can do. I was kind of a little bit, to be honest with you, unprepared and blindsided by the action or the way that the committee worked on that or thought about that. And I went with it, we discussed it, we talked about doing that, and afterwards I started thinking that it might not, having a separate nuisance ordinance in itself would probably be a better way of going rather than adding it into our existing ordinances for enforcement purposes. Would you agree that would be
It depends on how sweeping the new legislation would be. It's gonna be tailored to certain individual aspects of that might more appropriately apply to the ordinances already in place than those. But if it's gonna be more of a sweeping, a lot of new things, then it's probably better to have it stand alone.
Okay. So I'm asking council one more time, which way we want to go. Do we want to tell the ordinance committee, hey, this is what we want it, which one we want you to do? Or do we want to continue looking into it as adding into our current ordinances?
With respect to nuisance and parking?
Well, with the nuisance ordinance in general, do we want a separate nuisance ordinance or do we want to add or modify our current ordinances to take care of it? Although I don't think we can, there's a lot of what we want to handle with automobiles on private property that I just don't see where it's going to fit into any of our current ordinances, to be honest with you.
Then you're better off to go separate.
I just don't see a way around the whole thing.
I just think we have some of them already that has nuisance in them. Already, it says nuisance ordinance in there, or nuisance in there. Like the trees growing on the sidewalk, if that's a nuisance, we should be able to do something about it. I see we've got things out there already we're not doing anything about, to be honest with you, is my opinion. So why create something new when we're not even enforcing what we have?
Well, it's the nuisance abatements which you're talking about on that one with the trees.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, the nuisance abatement on that, which we've been sending letters out on that, haven't we, sure?
Yes, sir.
And we, for the most part, have had people, 90% of the time, letters take care of the problem. And we don't have to do anything more. And, that's what we need is a little bit more teeth with it too. So we can send letters out for other instances that we have several residents complain about, so.
I think what the committee actually said was there was a time sometime back that it was asked about the nuisance and they looked at it and they decided that most of the nuisance things we wanted to cover in the nuisance ordinance was already in the other ordinances. I think it was something different, then maybe it's time to do a nuisance ordinance. But it's already covered the other items and it's already in there.
John went back through because we asked him to do that, because he said he looked before and did that. There was some talk about whether that was before or after of what the CCNRs from the HOA, what they did and where they were. And like I said, none of the automobile issues that are in there are covered under anything. There's a lot of houses that are in disrepair of major amounts that we can't cover or do anything on. Do we want to do that? Or it was 2 months ago when back in January when we first talked about this, we were all in for it. And I asked everybody to send me what they thought they did and didn't want. I got no response out of it. And then we go to the meeting and I hear, oh, we don't want to do this now.
Ken, how much can we control what somebody does to their house as a village?
It's all relative, Steve. I mean, there are certain limits that already exist on, you know, what you can be required and how it's be built out of, or things like that. I think condition wise, you have some ability to control, I don't wanna use the word appearance, condition. That you might be able to do. I think your point is well taken, you know, which is, and this is, I sound like a broken record, you have to have sufficient infrastructure with which to enforce those things. And when I said it all becomes relative, it becomes relative to the degree of compliance you have people being willing to engage in versus not. Because if it's not, then while certainly significantly less significant than what you've dealt with stormwater drainage and potential necessity of use of legal services, it starts to become a cost benefit analysis again, and how much money you're gonna spend versus the bang you're gonna get for the community. Sometimes it is worthy to say, we are gonna spend money of that nature because it's what's expected of us for the community, and it's the cost of doing business, right? But yet on the other hand, if you can't cite it, litigate it with sufficient processes in place for the person you're telling you're gonna do that to, then what is it really worth? You know, it's not a question I can answer.
But we have some meat if it's a health issue. Right?
Well, you already have
Right, so then we have. that.
statutory, North Carolina state statutory provisions that will allow for some of those circumstances to potentially be addressed. Yes.
As long as it fits underneath the definition.
Yeah, I mean,
of what's inside that.
it has to be what I'm gonna call more extreme, you know, but those are the types. I think the one situation that comes to my mind around here is you know, where it was that home that needed to be dealt with. It did eventually pass itself with sufficient condition that you were able to use county authority assistance to deal with it. You know, and I think that things can reach that level. I think sometimes when you're in a smaller jurisdiction, you anyways might be stuck with that, depending on again how much money you want to spend on things. With infrastructure.
We talk about what we already have in the general statute. If I remember correctly, 163.
Oh, Joe, I'm not gonna be able to cite the number to you, I'm
Well,
sorry.
and we talked about that before, and decided that using that is a lengthy court process.
It is.
As opposed to having something that you had an administrator or a zoning official that would be the judiciary on it, so if you just had one case and that was it, and you weren't gonna have to worry about anything else, then you can use the 163 if that's right. And, but we decided that was extreme on that, and that's why we started talking
I
about
mean,
it.
fine structures also have their own bite to them, because there are some mechanisms for collection that can be used once they're established, that, you know, can get you your money back in relation to, if you don't want that, they will just live together on those. Was debt set off, is that what it is?
Debt setup can be used.
And so you can,
Liens.
that may be a more effective mechanism than what I'm gonna call strict compliance, which is, you know, getting them to deal with it, whatever it is, versus, because they'll deal with it once you start to find structures. They're not really answering the question very well, I'm sorry, I'm trying to, there are a lot of variables that come with it. I know the things that we think should be commonsensical, it shouldn't have a lot of variables. It probably should be that way, but the law convolutes it and makes it sometimes more difficult to deal with. Makes it certainly difficult for me to anticipate what any one given situation might produce for you. Ramblings it might produce for you. And there's merits to both sides of it. I like many things.
Also depends if it's your neighbor, when you're trying to sell your house.
Well, that's my whole point in the thing, is nobody deserves to live next to certain houses that
Right.
only are.
It's like what,
And we owe it to them to try to give them the best area that we can. And us not doing anything on it is, in my opinion, not acceptable.
So that's why I've been on this for a long time, and we kind of laid off of it for a while, but it's just that it needs to be.
Can we call wood rot, or mildew on the siding a nuisance?
Yes.
There is a, yeah.
And two people on the homeowners association board have wood rot in front of their houses. Another one has the garage door trim, it's been off for months, it's just laying up against the side of the house. I mean, the HOA has no enforcement power whatsoever.
It's taken away from them.
Absolutely not. So I
What do you
think
mean they
if
have
we're
no
going to
enforcement
be able to
power?
enforce them.
That's what they mean, they don't have any enforcement power.
They state that their
They're
CCNRs are written so vaguely that they have no legal grounds.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the case or not. What I can say is that there's a bunch of lawyers getting paid a bunch of money that advance enforcement issues for homeowners associations and do so effectively. And it's hard to stomach from my end a global representation of our stuff's too weak, therefore we can't do anything. Maybe that's accurate. I don't do that work. Maybe it's accurate. But yet on the other hand, if it's accurate, I think I know the answer you're gonna give me. Why don't they change it? Because they can't get enough percentage.
There you go.
Right, there you go.
There ought to be some way, you would think, again, common, what do they gotta have, 92%?
No,
Well, the problem is, you know,
75's a high number.
Yeah, it is.
it's a high number, and then 15% of the place at least is rentals, and they're not gonna go for it.
Yeah, I don't
So it's
know. I guess that's where I fall, I think many ways, it's why I commented the way I have, which is to say, your really true enforcement mechanism for these things you're talking about is an active homeowners association for a community that's small.
Well, I will say this. There is not, on the average, if you take the number of calls I get in a week's time, on the average, there is not a single day I do not get at least one call a day concerning the condition of somebody's house, somebody's yard, somebody's bushes. It's a constant call that on mildew, on this or that. As it currently is stated and what is not, and it doesn't matter to me. But from the standpoint, and to answer your question, Mark, I do know that if you go down the road of a nuisance ordinance, it has to be very specific as to, for example, if one side of your house has more than 25% mold,
Right.
the house needs to be pressure washed. If your grass is taller than 10 inches,
Yeah.
you're in violation. If your bushes are over the bottom of the windowsill, they need to be cut. I mean, you can't just say it's, if the yard is not
you can't
aesthetically
make it
pleasing.
subjective.
It has to be where there's no grass.
And can you even say that somebody needs to pressure wash? I can see where.
Well, it needs to be
In our-
addressed. so
Our
however you
ordinances,
want
we
to
had
address
something like, 25% of the siding is off of the house, then.
it. Right.
But I'm not
So
sure.
the town, my question, a
Address
town
it.
can actually have these rules.
Yes.
They have to be very specific.
Yes, but they can't be as acutely aesthetically oriented as CCNRs typically are. That are the things that bolster property values and preference by neighbors regarding the condition of their neighbor's home. Things like that. You also have and I have taken a lot of time to look at this lately. This came up maybe 15 years ago or so. But, you have a legislative environment that is not currently, doesn't appear to be very oriented to allowing governmental entities to, wants to restrict the ability of governmental entities to engage in these exact things we're talking about, and to what extent I'm very hesitant to say, well, yes, you can do that, yeah, you can do that. And I've listened to Sheree make very good points about 25% of this, so many inches of that. Well, okay, well then I'm sitting here as a trial lawyer, saying, you better have some good proof of that. You better have some photographs that you can authenticate. You can tell when they're taking it, by who they were taking it, if it gets into the court system. Maybe it doesn't advance itself in the court system. Maybe it really is 90% of the, 98% of the time handled internally within the governmental processes of the village itself. But if it starts to go outside it, I don't know, man. It becomes subject to effective challenge, I think. Potentially.
So going down that road here for a second. If we go down and go to nuisance, let's just say 25% mold, mildew, you have to power wash. If you don't, what is gonna? Going down the road of saying, take pictures, who did it, when it was taken, going down. What is the town gonna do? Saying, hey, if you don't get it done in 30 days, we're gonna charge you $25 a day from the day of the first, was noticed. It's the town doing that, so now the town has to have a code enforcement. Pay for that to go around and make that happen. So there's having certain things inside there, and this is where Joe, I believe, is coming from. What are you looking for? If you wanna have this, it's gonna be town enforced, not sheriff's department enforced. And then how is the town gonna enforce it and collect the money and do this, and that the homeowner says, sorry, I'm not gonna do it.
And I hope I'm not interrupting, I don't mean to. I think you're right to suggest internal infrastructure for enforcement purposes, because, and we've established from a long time now, the contractual relationship with the sheriff's department regarding the enforcement of laws that are both village oriented and state oriented has come with an understanding that village created laws will be engaged in a cooperative discussion with the sheriff's department regarding what they are, so that the expectations are there for everyone about what they will and will not do. And I think you're not going to hear from the sheriff's department, sure, you can pass that. We're not writing citations for mold, mildew, and grass height. I think you're gonna run into that.
But you could operate it potentially on the theory, just like everything else in the village, it's complaint driven.
Sure.
So if,
That's what most things are.
and that's,
Right.
that's how I respond to anything. If someone calls me and complains, I go out and look at it, and if the village has jurisdiction over it, then I send the homeowner a letter and say, hey, it's come to our attention, you've got da-da-da-da-da to address it. But there's not, and then most people, because, for example, putting up a fence without a permit, if it's brought to my attention that someone has done that, they have so many days to get their permit. And if they choose not to get their permit, that they will start incurring a fee at the point, at a certain point. So, and that's a letter.
And I don't want to just
But
excessively discourage you,
Yeah.
but I do think smaller governmental units do, my way to put it, their advancement of these issues is oftentimes effective because people don't have the pockets to challenge them outside the scope of their own rule processes. And so I think it can work. You just run the risk of the right person, might have the ability to kibosh it. So
Joe, I think if we're going down the path of those things we're mentioning, grass too tall, fall on your house, I think you do need a use of ordinance to cover those things. Is my thought.
That's, that's.
I don't think those things are anywhere else, where else in there, right?
Well, there's several things. We use as always, we use the Wesley Chapel as the benchmark of what we were looking at. And that's what I wanted to whittle down. What do we want to use in this? What don't we want to use? Is there something in this something missing in this that we want to add?
because don't they have something that, if like what they were putting it is, you mentioned the grass that's expanded, like you can't have the junkyard. Right.
They've got a lot in there, so
Right, things like
fit in a
that.
lot of different areas.
I'm looking at Wesley Chapels, and I was there when we adopted it. It's mostly based on safe habitation of people. I don't think you can I don't know, I would be surprised, and Vaughn would certainly know. But I don't think you can go after things like mold where you're talking about, and you want it to look pretty and, you know, I'm not sure.
Well,
you
the
can go-
HOA couldn't do it.
I think you gotta stay away from aesthetic.
It was my understanding you couldn't do some of that stuff as
Yeah.
well, so that's the reason I was asking. Then,
Gotta stay away
There are
from
things
aesthetic.
that
You gotta
are
stay away
less
from
you
aesthetics.
You can make sure that rats and all
but
can't
to,
get in
but
the
to me,
house.
mold in somebody's house, I mean, that might be more than aesthetics, because it might be causing the neighbor to be sick.
That's Vaughn, he would know.
Well, you know, items such as, a car with a window broken out of it that's collecting water.
That's a
and
problem.
We had
Yeah.
that, yeah, we had.
That's something like that. We don't have anything to stop that.
So things like that are not, or other ordinances need to be in, then you would need a nuisance
The
ordinance.
nuisance ordinance for that, and keeping it out of like Ken was saying here before, you know, when we had the general ordinance, when we redid that, even though it was the same basic, there was a few changes in it, but it was the same basic enforcement figure that we had in there, we still had to take that to the sheriff's department for them to say, yes, we will do this for you. We had to have their attorney, he looked over it and said, yes, this is good, we will do that. We start throwing other things into it, that's not their enforcement. I fear that we have problems with that.
Maybe, you're right.
You know, that's why I was saying, you know, we probably need to, and like I said, I thought of this after our last meeting, with it's like, you know, this isn't the right way to handle this, this is what we got.
Our two operators would have to actually do it, right?
I'm
Sorry to
sorry.
be the officers, no.
No, when we do a nuisance, it would not be.
It won't be the officers doing the nuisance ordinance.
In
It'd be-
Wesley Chapel, we didn't have anything to do with the sheriff's department.
It'd be-
It was the zoning administrator.
Mhm.
Right.
It'd be somebody calling Cherie.
Yeah.
Or when the trees all right
So
around.
I think you can fairly feel confident that it's gonna be internal. That's
Yeah.
managed.
Yeah. Now I can see you need a nuisance ordinance for those things, right? I mean, they're different, anything else we cover.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't have to go with everything, we just gotta know what we wanna do, and then make it.
Yeah, or a fence that's falling down, that's no longer functioning, or, you know, whatever is your pleasure, but there's some good between, Town of Stallings has some good information in their ordinance. Wesley Chapel's got some.
The Stallings have a nuisance ordinance?
Stallings, yes, in a sense, they do. I was actually reading, their sidewalk and planting ordinance today, and they talk about nuisance from the standpoint of, plantings out in that strip, in the right of way. Whether it doesn't matter who owns it, if it's in front of your property, or if you're on the corner beside, you know, what are the restrictions and all in there. And so they have a nuisance section for that. And I think it would, you know, it would certainly take some work, you know, to pull some things out. But there are, City of Monroe has a nuisance ordinance.
Do an AI search, common nuisance.
Yeah.
Ordinance, and it would load it.
I'll say, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, do you have the link to the two companies that have all the online,
Like Unicode and all.
ordinances?
You get Unicode, and then, what was the other
I'm
one?
trying to think of the, I'm trying to think of the.
Something
name.
publishers,
American Legal.
American Legal.
American Legal, yeah, those two. Do you have the link to those two? I'll send you those.
Yeah, that's what we started everything with when we started the ordinance review committee. I was going through.
But I can see, my opinion, the importance for those things we mentioned, like the grass or like the house, I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of other things. That should be separate from what we've done so far.
Okay, so the question here is, do we as a council, do we want to decide what we want in this nuisance ordinance, or do we want to let the ordinance review committee make something and then us say, hey, no, this isn't what we want, or we want something different? You know, where do we want, what direction do we want to go in on this? I need to know something, so when I go in there and tell everybody, hey, this is what council wants us to do.
I thought any ordinance that regulated the use of land had to go to planning board.
I'm not sure that I would consider that regulating the use of the land per se necessarily. Not sure about that.
You were thinking what that would be more of development of the land
Well,
as opposed to,
I guess I think in some situations the answer is yes, and some the answer is no.
Who would know that, Cheryl? Would it be something following
Vaughn's a great resource.
Well, actually, funny that Cheryl brought that up, because I thought it was a good, I was gonna send an email, just do it orally now. I think she's making a good point. You probably ought to send a feeler out to Vaughn and just see what some of his jurisdictions utilize from a development ordinance standpoint that might address some of these issues.
Sure, you're making a note, you're gonna reach out to him for us?
Should, yes, sir, I'll copy it on
He'll tell you if planning board doesn't need to.
that. I can tell you.
He'll be glad to
doesn't
know.
need that.
All right, the next part that we were talking about was parking. If you guys remember, we talked in our last meeting about the issue with, the vans parking on Meeting Street. We did send those, we left letters on those people's vehicles to ask them to move and when the roads were closed for Food Truck Fridays, and they did. They've been good on that. They've moved them around some days there's two, some days there's three.
There was only one.
Yeah, there's times there's only one there, so, you know, our concern is that the worry is the monkey see, monkey do is the term I've used on it, and that's what we've had happen already. You know, where additional vehicles show up and people say, hey, this is a good place to park my car, and it's it, and it's using all the commercial spaces.
We put up signs, let's say 2 hour, 3 hour parking.
Well,
something like that?
we discussed that, we discussed, the best way to regulate it, and the problem with the 2-3 hour parking is more of a, enforcement type situation. Again, we're on to that.
Yeah.
You know, who's to say it was there for 2 hours unless it was marked and checked and everything? We came up with that, we thought the best way to do it would be put a time where there's no parking there on the, on Meeting Street and Craft in front of the businesses. We came up with 11 o'clock to 7 a.m., 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., there's no parking.
11 p.m.
I thought we were gonna change it based off what the parking is out here.
We talked about that, but then we didn't really go any farther with that. We just talked about that, and that was the community center parking.
Yeah, I think we should keep it the same as community center.
What was the community center parking? I think that was 9 or something.
I think it's 11 to 6 or something like that. Or midnight to 6, something like that.
Cause I think we did go to 6 AM.
Yeah.
We talked back and forth between 6 and 7.
We went to 6, and I think it was like,
They open at 7?
7.
Okay.
I
so
found it in one of the ordinances and sent it out. I can't remember what it was now, sorry. I think it was 12 to 6 or 11 to 6.
Basically, you
The
can't park
basic
there
gist
overnight.
of it is that we can do something that's stop overnight parking, which is stop the storage of vehicles.
Yeah.
For it, and it's easy to say, hey, it's, you know, it's 12:30, it's there.
Mhm.
Now, how we're gonna enforce that with people that are here at that time frame, you know, we don't always have overnight officers here.
No.
And it'll be all ours. I think it was brought up that if we did it 10 o'clock, no parking at, you know, at 10 o'clock, none of the businesses are open at 10 o'clock. However, we have the events out there, but when the events are out there,
That's what's not been, yeah.
the roads are closed, so you know,
But then
at
you
10 o'clock, they're done by
got,
10 o'clock.
you got the event center, if they ever get anything going.
That was brought up too.
If the event center, yes, if
Shut
the
them down.
event center comes, you know, goes, then what do we do there? How do we handle that? So we can, you know, we can very simply, you know, make our changes in the ordinance, and when we bring it to council, if there's different times that we want to use, that's not a problem. That's a very simple change very quickly, and we can do that.
We're talking about doing all the business center, right?
Correct. Doing up and down both sides of Craft and Meeting Street. All of Meeting Street, both sides of Craft in front of the businesses, to have them restricted for no parking after.
I have been seeing a lot of people living in the townhomes over by Miss Dee Dee's parking there after the hours and on the week, you know, at
Mhm.
nights.
Those empty parking spaces on the end and all, yeah, they
Yeah.
fill them up at night.
Well, they do fast.
So I don't know where those folks will park if you say no parking there.
You talking about in front of the business or in?
Well,
Between
yeah,
Miss
she's got the
Dee's
no parking,
and Meeting Street.
but between Meeting Street and where that no parking starts, there's several parking spaces in
They're
there.
usually gone in the morning, but they're usually there at night.
Yeah,
Well, if she doesn't have an issue with the parking there, and with people parking, they move it for her when she gets in there.
yeah,
We can
there,
just exclude that street from it. We
Yeah,
just
there's
put the Craft in
nothing
front of
over-
the-
I think right there you should exclude.
I mean, if that's not a problem. I mean, that's never been brought up to us as a complaint. Meeting Street's been brought up to us as a complaint, and Craft in front of the other side
businesses.
has been, you know, where the businesses are there. That's all been a complaint, so we just have to figure out the proper way to word that part of it. I mean, you just use the between 61 whatever and 60, you know, this, no parking there.
Because we offered, when we were remarking the no parking for DDs, to extend it some, and they wanted they wanted some parking spaces. So obviously they're empty during the day, that it's allowing people to park.
I have no problem changing that.
It seems like night people park there.
Mhm.
So is that the way we want to move forward with that, is to do something where it's no overnight parking? Would that be the best way to try to handle that problem? Okay, that's what I'll take to them then. So that's it for the ordinance review committee. Technology, electronic payment systems, Sheree, how are we doing on that? Great, I can tell by the look on her face, everything is working really well. She's a wordsmith today.
Those are quick answers.
We're trying.
We're still working on that. A side note for technology, I did today update the pool menu. So if anybody needs to find out any information about pool hours or when it's opening, it is on the phone system. That is updated now. All right, special projects update. Sheree, what do we know about the landings?
Next month, Doug Alice will be here for the meeting. So he will be presenting and is informing council where they are. Right now, they plan to close on that property June 6th, I believe, is closing date.
What was the 15th? That's what I heard.
It's before our council meeting.
Okay. Just tell me what I
So
heard.
that's all I know. According to Doug, it's before the council meeting, but hey, I could be
Something
totally,
could change at any hour.
I could be delusional. But anyway, he will be here at the next meeting. They have asked for information on, preliminary plat and, final plats and how to proceed with that. So they've been directed to, that procedure is set up in our UDO. So they've been directed to, reference that. And, they came through, we did a review that Eagle Engineering just finished for us. So we're moving in the right direction. So anyway, Doug will be able to answer your questions at the next meeting. So if we can put him toward the beginning, that would be greatly appreciated.
That's encouraging that's finally moving along, getting somewhere. There's some more money on the table for us too, and to get a certain amount of units occupied there, which would be very well needed. So that's good. You guys received some information from Jeremy and Sheree about the senior nutrition program. I call it Meals on Wheels. It's something different here. But they're asking us to help support a couple people. We currently have 7 seniors in Lake Park that are on the actual program. And they have 4 people that are on the waiting list. Now, they are 100% taking care of the seniors right now. The 7 seniors, excuse me. The 4 seniors that are on the waiting list, they don't have an ability to do. Some other municipalities have opted to chip in to help out on this. Matter of fact, Wesley Chapel has paid for all of them. So they're holding the 0.
I called the mayor yesterday and asked her, and actually they haven't paid a penny yet.
Okay.
I asked her how, I was trying to get information, how does it work, do they believe in it, whatever. And they had their meeting last night, so I couldn't talk to her then, and she works during the day, but they actually haven't paid anything yet, although they did agree to.
They've approved it, but they haven't.
Apparently, yeah, so
Okay.
I'll let you know when I hear more.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting. I was a little concerned that the county would just bill us like in advance and then maybe not even serve people.
You can't trust those guys, can you? Well, we I know Jeremy did have a question for him about which ones would our seniors qualify for. They have hot meals and they have frozen meals. It depends on the distance you are from them, or which ones they provide. I don't know that he ever got an answer on that, and I do know that you provided some questions too that I don't know that we have an answer on. Sheree, is this something we have to take care of now, or is this something we can?
My understanding was Jeremy was wanting to know if council wanted to go ahead and potentially put it in to budget so that when we went to budget hearing, it would already be in there. and us balance the budget accordingly? Or do you want to wait and potentially do a, fund balance transfer at a later
Do an
date?
amendment to the
Or
budget.
you can
later.
amend your budget
Or-
at the,
Yeah.
you can, if you know, maybe you want some more into.
Well, what do you guys think? Are we interested in this? Say spending $8,000 to feed our seniors
That is a year.
a year?
Possibly.
Yeah,
Well, yes. Are we interested in adding $8,000 into our budget for this program?
Personally, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, there's people out there that can't even put a can of beans on their plate in a day.
So I will say the same thing, I'm gonna echo Bruce's saying, and say, yeah, we should put it into the budget and see what we go and get some answers.
Where does the funding come from? Meals on Wheels, whatever it is.
Their funding? I have no idea. I would imagine it's state.
County taxes, state taxes?
You're
federal,
Federal.
it's federal.
So. Mark, what do you think about it?
I agree with 4. I don't know if I'd go 5, 6, 7, or 8, but definitely 4 we definitely need it at this point.
I guess my morbid question is, when someone no longer needs that service, do they pick up do they move the next person up and then they continue to fund it? Or if the village says we fund it,
If somebody else's waiting list that's not there?
yeah, I guess that's kind of I mean, 'cause I
How do they
don't,
get tracked?
yeah, I don't
It's
know
like,
how they.
we all pay the same county taxes, you don't get a bargain rate because you're a Lake Park resident. But they're willing to pay for the residents right over the village limits. But now they're asking you to pay for
Yeah, I don't know.
citizens who already pay their taxes. I don't.
I certainly don't want to think for one moment that anyone is going hungry in the village, nor I certainly know the number of older people that having a hot meal delivered makes a huge difference for them because they no longer cook. And I get all of that, so.
Wendy and I are getting up
Well, I will tell you this, my father-in-law was on that program before he passed away, and first off, it's very well vetted. You don't have to worry about people that are getting it, that don't really afford it, or just taking advantage of the system. It was very well vetted, and, there was something else that, for him, that I hope other seniors get out of it too, is there's just a little bit of companionship of talking with somebody coming. He looked forward to the person coming dropping off the food.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it or not, one time he fell and couldn't get up. And the Meals on Wheel, the senior nutrition program person is the one that came and helped him up and called 911 for him. So I think a little bit differently of it. I'm for it. I hope I'd like to think that there's nobody in Lake Park that needs it, but I'm sure there is.
Oh, yeah.
So, I myself, I see no problem putting it into the budget. We can look more into it, and find out our other questions. Let's just go ahead and put it in, right now, make a motion to add this into our budget. I don't know where we add it.
It would kind of be,
Social services, or
yeah, we've never done several social services.
if that line for that.
Yeah, so, how much is the motion to add to the budget?
I'll make the motion to add $8,000.
I have a question.
Yes, I can.
How do you feel about that,
About what?
to add these elderly folks into feeding them?
Well, I have a personal experience with Meals on Wheels from my brother, and it is very well vetted. And he moved from one county, he lives in Pennsylvania, he moved from one county to another, and the new county wouldn't put him on it because at the time he was able to drive, so they couldn't now he can't. But it's great, because yeah, they look forward to the person coming, dropping off the meals. It was a social event for him. And they provided him with meals. I didn't have to worry about him being fed. People get to the point where they just can't do it anymore. And I'm big on it, so I just think it's a real positive.
I seen it with my wife's uncle who's now deceased. And it was really great for him for the same reason. He lived in a studio that was probably no bigger than Sherry's office. But, you know, people would come and bring me. Then my wife's aunt had it also, so now she's in a home. And look forward to coming.
Sure, because some days that may be the only person anybody
see.
sees, especially if they're homebound.
And some of these people, I imagine, aren't associated with the church or anything to where they can get that immediate help, and they have to reach out to the county.
I was wondering about that too. I thought churches did that.
I know our
Do
church
they do it
has a
separately
program
from
where
that, or they do it?
seniors
I
who
don't
can
know.
drive can come to the church and
Yeah.
meals are provided, you know, lunch, companionship, but they have to be able to drive.
But we could also, if we put the money into the budget now, we don't necessarily have to say, we're putting it in there for social services. We don't necessarily have to say it's for this program. We can reach out to our two churches too and see if they have something that they could do to help the four people that need it. I mean, if we're more comfortable with doing that too, we can certainly look into that.
It's not a lot of money for a year. I mean, that's what I was thinking. It's
Yeah,
not a lot of money for.
It's not,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
did something with that. That's.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion.
I'll second
Do
your
you want to
motion.
call it senior nutrition?
Yeah, let's call it that. That sounds good, social services.
So I'll second your motion.
Okay.
And keep it in a neighborhood where the restaurant can make the meals possibly.
That's something that could happen with it.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
Steve, you second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, Steve, or excuse me, sorry, Mark, you're up, communications.
You want me to do
information.
communications? First of all, I've had a couple of these people contact me this week about storm drains that we're responsible for storm drains, keeping them clear, or the people who.
Storm drains, Lucas maintains those for us, or is supposed to.
Yeah.
If you'll give me those addresses, I'll make sure they get.
Yeah, the one particular lady lived right across from Faith Church, or across from the Methodist Church, and they said that Lucas came by later after making a mess up, that they cleaned it up. So
Okay.
that one.
Are you talking about on roadways, storm drains in the roadways or on private property?
This had to be right at the, you know, the bump,
Right at the,
curb.
right,
Yeah, kind of like the one. Okay, then, and, okay, the HOA, last month, they really stepped up. They had 67 violations. Or 57 violations, where the month before in April was only 7. And they had, most of which were unauthorized items or nuisance for 32 times, where the previous month it was only 2 incidents. So I thought that was kind of a change there. Whether they'll be able to, you know, enforce it or not, who knows?
Well, like we said, most of the time letters itself just take care of it, so.
So it sounds
one
like they're doing
person-
something.
Yeah, one of the person put a post on the Lake Park Facebook page, and it was one of those little planters with 4 legs sitting out in front, and everybody's going, she just nicely said, you know, basically is like, I've had my planter out here for years, and now they're saying it's, you know, unauthorized, and I made the comment, everybody's going, yeah. And I made the comment, maybe it's the shovel on the front, it's leaning up against the door, you know, beside the door.
That's probably.
And then a couple other people said, yeah, you might be right, it might be the shovel, so they're gonna check into it. But those are those little nuisance things that they were talking about, so that was probably one of those 32 instances. Last month, they did their property inspections the last week of April, and this month, they're gonna do it only one day because of May 26th holiday. So on May 27th, make your yards look nice for a day, at least. Architectural report, there were 12 approved, 4 open, some regular stuff. Their social event committee update from here on out is, of course, the summer entertainment on Friday nights is now going on until October 24th. They have a fall yard sale on 10/18. They have an annual fall festival on 11/1. and a Christmas tree lighting ceremony on 12/7. And that is it.
Newsletter information?
Can you repeat that one part for Ken since he was out? How many violations they had, HOA?
Say 34 nuisance violations?
32 unauthorized.
57 violations this month compared to 7 last month.
Mhm.
That mean they're getting more active?
Well, they got a new president. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. He's
Yeah,
only
maybe
been doing
it
it for a couple of months. Maybe that's the reason all of a sudden, voila.
You want to know who it is? John.
Jonathan.
Oh, really?
Kim worked with him on planning it.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I was sharing.
That doesn't surprise me. He's a great,
That
he's
is
a very bright gentleman too.
Yeah, I was impressed when I saw him in the planning
Oh, yeah.
meeting. So, yeah, I think he'll do it. I think he'll do a good job this year.
He was a very good chair.
I was actually gonna reach out to him and ask him some about, and talk with him some about the nuisance ordinance and, some of our experiences and how we've done with enforcement. And, just because they say they have a hard time enforcing it doesn't mean it stops.
He would be a very good person as well for you to be able to bridge with, that maybe hasn't been the case in the past. It's perfectly as you would have preferred. He would be very easy for you to work with, intertwine yourself with.
I don't know, I can't remember if this was before or after our last meeting, but we had an incident with during the community yard sale, where somebody decided they wanted to, set up shop. Several people set up shop by the pond, and not on Meeting Street, on Faith Church Road.
Yeah.
And up in parking spaces, they had all kinds of stuff there. And it looked like a flea market going on there. I went there, Jeremy was already at work, so he couldn't do it, so I went with him and John. And we walked by and told people, hey, you can't do this, you can't be there. Talking with him, he was, really good. I don't know if I ever told you about that or not.
Were they actually resident of Lake Park? Were they actually?
They all said they were, but,
Probably weren't. There were too many.
That's one person had a U-Haul out there, had like 7 lawnmowers, rocks, all kinds of stuff, all in parking spaces on Faith Church. I said, you can't do this. Why not? I live right across the street. Well, live there.
We get on that side of the street.
My yard's not big enough. Well, sorry.
But you need a U-Haul trailer up
They
there.
had a U-Haul out there, exactly.
There were a
So,
couple of easy up tents out there too. They were.
Sure, you have anything for the newsletter? You always have at least one thing. How about the fish license? We still doing that?
We are
right.
selling fishing permits.
Fish.
I would definitely put in pool memberships.
Yeah, the full membership, the piranhas kicking back up and, yeah.
We've got
yeah.
those,
maybe mention the new half-day pass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
after
for
5
special
days.
days.
after $5, $6.
Once you tell them about the crosswalks again.
As long
Crosswalks.
as the sign is there, please use it.
Yeah, I made a thing of it. That's what, so.
They're there except for one, it's like.
Please remind
Amazing.
people, again, people don't seem to understand, a toilet is considered construction debris. We do not take, the last contract renewal, because of the freon that has to be removed out
Yeah,
of
somebody has on a
refrigerator.
freezer.
We do not
I
take
said no, no.
refrigerators.
No refrigerators,
Or
freezers,
freezers.
air conditioners.
Or air
Yeah,
conditioners.
somebody asked that on the
Because of
page.
that freon,
Yeah, I even say you can take a freon out, I didn't even go there, he said no.
yeah,
Well, you
yeah,
can't
well, we
decide
don't,
not
we
to
don't, we
because-
don't, yeah.
Yeah, the fact was, it costs more to do that than,
Yeah, exactly.
there's scrap people all around that'll be happy to come get that stuff.
That news for you, Lowe's, Home Depot, you buy a fridge from them, they take
They take it out, yeah. I think a lot of these that we have are ones that are, where they're extra refrigerator that they put out in the garage and it stopped working and then they just stick it
It
out
makes
there.
its way out of.
Queen
the-
City's another one, they take the old
Yeah.
ones if you buy from them.
Yeah, most places, and like I said, there's scrappers out there that'll come get them too, you can find them all over the place, yeah, they don't mind, so. If anybody else has got any newsletter information, please get it to Mark so he can put it in what's the cutoff date, when you gonna try to get it out by? When's the cutoff for the newsletter?
It's generally around the 21st.
But later in the 20th of the month or so.
And
Got
I throw it
anything?
together in panic in 24 hours and give it to print, and delivered by the end of the month.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Alright.
All right, council comments. Jeremy has a little pattern, I don't know what it is, I'm just gonna start with Jim.
Jim, I'm just gonna say, thanks, everyone, nice long evening, and, hope to see everyone on Memorial Day out there.
Mark?
Exactly, same comment.
Steve,
Same thing.
Bruce?
I would say memorial, the ceremony, that is really a good event.
It is.
Really is.
It's very well attended, people like it. and it's-
Yeah, I really enjoy
We
it.
won't have our regular singer there, he's retired.
Oh, yeah.
He's retired, so we have this guy that's pretending to be a DJ is gonna be playing the music.
On Friday this year.
I'd like to say something.
The price is right.
On behalf of the community, I don't think people realize how much you guys do. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanna thank you guys for bearing with me today, it's the first time I had to do this, so, thank you. Hope I did a good enough job getting this meeting moving along. Sorry if I talked a little too quick
If
there.
you didn't, we would have.
In the beginning, I was here in the headlights looking a little fast, but you calmed down. You did a good job. Great job.
midway to me, it's like Jeremy who?
Ken?
That's my comment. Nice job, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, thank you. Sheree?
Yes, sir.
Cheryl? All right, I will.
I'll make a motion
to adjourn. Mark makes the motion,
I'll say.
Bruce seconds, all in favor?
Hey.
All right, thank you guys.
You too. I'll see you Tuesday.
I'll be around.
I hope so.
Bruce, tell me that.
I need to write a paycheck.
We want this?
Yeah, I'm in charge of signs.